Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this General Purpose and Administration Committee meeting to order. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature? Seeing none, I just want to remind councillors, once our new procedural bylaw is updated, you will have to fill in a form every time you declare a conflict, and this is under the Bill 68, Modernizing Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act. And what I think we'll do, Madam Clerk, if it's all right with you, we'll hand out a couple copies to every councillor so they can have them filled out prior to the meeting.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so that's coming up. Is there any items that need to be talked about on the agenda that aren't listed?
There was an addendum sent out on Friday afternoon that included a couple pieces of correspondence along with reports, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Announcements. Where do we start? We'll start with you. Welcome back, Councillor Barton. I'm glad to hear your surgery was successful and you're doing well.
I am doing really well. So it's been a pretty quiet 3 weeks for me. I went from using a walker to a cane, and then while I was away, I walked 4K a couple different days. So things are progressing well. The ice is scaring me a little bit. I've never been so frightened of a little bit of snow, but yeah. I will get through.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your patience while I've been out of contact.
No thanks needed. But I would suggest, as somebody that has gone through this, that in this weather you do take your cane, because you do not want to fall.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
Do you have anything?
No, what? I'll leave it at that. I'll be speaking soon. So.
Right. Okay. Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning to everyone. Speaking of ice, the ice on Elgin Pond is safe. The barricades are up. The yellow flags are up. It's red flag for a long time, and the reason being that there was so much snow on the ice it served as a blanket, and when you took the snow off, you hit slush, and it wasn't safe. It is now. It was augured yesterday. 5 different holes were put in the ice. Everything was over 8 inches. South central part of the pond was 10.5 inches, and on the channel, that usually is the shallowest, it was well over 8 inches. So right now we got the snow last night, and it's looking like the forecast says as we get near the end of the week, it's going to warm up and we're going to get rain again. So it's a never-ending battle, but I can assure you now, right now, the ice is safe and yellow flagged.
That's great. I saw you out there. I don't know who was with you, but...
Tim Morris.
Oh, good. Great. Nothing, Councillor Bryan? Councillor Beach?
Good morning. Just a little note with some information to follow. The Goodwood Lions Family Skate is going to be held on January 26th at the Goodwood Hall, and it's a fundraiser this year, and I'll have a little bit more information on time and everything next week. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. While we're on the topic of ice, I just wanted to thank the Public Works Department for staying on top of the adverse weather conditions we've had. We've gone from rain to ice to snow, back again to ice, so they're on top of it. They covered me with snow last week while I was cleaning my driveway, but I won't hold that against them. Anyway, I just wanted to thank them. They're on the ball for this.
Yeah,
they deserve our thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor O'Connor. Good morning. Just a couple quick things. Mayor O'Connor and I attended on Saturday a celebration of life for Harry Johnson, Carol's husband, and I'm sure he'll be sadly missed. And I just want to express our condolences for him.
Yeah.
That's all. The other thing is as well in Sanford on the 27th of January we have Yuck Yucks coming to town. It was very successful last year, and they're coming again this year, Saturday night, January the 27th. So if you can keep that night open, it's a great night, a lot of fun. Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go to finance. I'd just like to say that Harry and Carol were great, great volunteers for the museum, and spent hundreds of hours up there, and certainly our thoughts and our sympathy goes to Carol. Harry was an amazing person, and you know, it's sort of sad that you have to go to funerals to really find out sometimes what the person is all about. I had no idea that he was the person that he was. Went back to school when he was 65 and got another degree at university. Just amazing person for his accomplishments and the volunteering that he did. And sort of makes you think maybe you need a celebration of your life when you're still alive, so people know what you're all about. But you know, he certainly will be missed, and our thoughts and prayers are with Carol at this time. Okay, we'll go to finance. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dave Barton. I almost forgot you, Dave.
Oh, right.
No, actually, I didn't bring this in, so yeah, you're going to talk about the active transportation for 218.
So these are the, from Upcycle, that many of you attended, that,
Oh yeah,
so the t-shirts from Upcycle.
great.
Yeah, they appreciated the support from everyone who went.
Are they all large, Dave?
They're all large, and that's all they have, so.
Okay.
You certainly can. Make sure you post that somewhere, and you can post it on Instagram.
You can take this one and paint in it.
Your mic's still on here.
Good.
Okay, so.
Yours isn't.
Thank you very much. Now, just to get the joke out of the way first, can someone ask me to stand up or something, Fred? No? Oh, it's true, I'm sorry. All right. So, guys, this is something that's very dear to my heart, active transportation in Uxbridge. We have a fantastic opportunity. I'm just going to talk about some of that. Let's see if I can make this work. So we're the Trail Capital of Canada, and that came into being because of so many volunteers that worked, you know, thousands of hours to create our trails. Everyone from, we'll go to the next slide. And we have some incredible trails. So we've got all the town trails that have been created. Durham Forest is some of the best mountain biking and hiking in Ontario. Dagmar was created with thousands of hours of DMBA volunteers. The Walker property's been there forever and just incredible hiking. The scenery there is just amazing. The Trans-Canada Trail, we're lucky to have that go right through our town. And then now we've got the Rouge Park, in our municipality. So there's so much already here, and what I believe we need to do now is just link some of it together. Okay? The local partners, again, the people that work so hard, the people like John McCutcheon and Brian Buckles and the whole founding members of that Trails Committee in Uxbridge. And then, Green Durham, that's a group of people that put their money where their mouth is and make things happen. DMBA, unbelievable work ethic, and they really get some work done there. Then we've got local businesses that are really stepping up and taking advantage of the cycle tourism that already exists here. And when the DMBA need a favor, they step up. When there's an opportunity to become Ontario by Bike certified, they do it. Okay? And then Uxbridge Parks and Rec. They make sure that our trails are safe, and they mow, they cut the grass in the preserve and all things like that. So Bob, thank you for your team and everything that they're doing. Okay. Oh, just a second. Okay. Now, what we gain as a municipality because of active transportation is the green image. So people like to go places and like to visit places where they feel good about what's happening there. So, and then I've spoken to a number of different residents, and I'm sure that you have as well, that have moved to Uxbridge because of what we have to offer. And for some, that's our pool, and they can get on their bike at their house and go for a safe ride up to 6th. Okay. And then another great thing about active transportation is if we have kids that are riding their bikes to school, we'll have less congestion. We'll have less issues at places like Joseph Gould, Fred. Less phone calls. So the safer parents feel about their kids riding to school, the more people are going to do it. Okay? And then it's also a low cost or free activity that the parents can take the kids to go do as well. So it's a free way to get to work. For some of our less fortunate residents who don't have cars, they can often pick up a bike for $20 or $50 and get to theirs to pick up their milk. So it's another positive here. Okay, and then eco-tourists. Typically cyclists make a fair bit of money, and they spend it when they're visiting places. My wife's leaving in a couple weeks to go to Thailand on a cycling trip. We met people on the plane last night that they're going to San Diego. He rides in Goodwood. And while they're there, they spend a significant amount of money. And we have about 100,000 people that go to Durham Forest mountain biking every year, and thousands of riders every week that use Uxbridge as part of their loops. And many of them stop at Anita's, and if we can get more of those people into downtown Uxbridge, it'll help our businesses downtown. Okay, and then if we showcase Uxbridge as an outdoor destination, maybe a little bit more like Canmore, I think we'll find that our real estate values go up, which means our tax base goes up, and our businesses are more and more successful. Okay, and the reason why Uxbridge is a great place to ride is for the most part, there's very low traffic volumes on our concession roads. It's hilly, and cyclists want the challenge of going up and down hills, up and down mountains if we were in Europe, and that's why they come here. Okay, and the other great thing we have, because we have our hamlets, it allows the cyclists stopping points. So Goodwood is obviously a place where it's a destination. We've got stores in Sanford, Zephyr, Leaksdale, and these are all places where these people can, get more Gatorade or water or food, and they look for that in a place to ride. It will also help Airbnbs and our B&Bs and accommodation in town. That's a growing market, and you'll see more and more people like that who will visit Uxbridge. And then obviously our trail systems and the fields of Uxbridge, the Countryside Preserve is incredible that it's right in town and that they can access our downtown from those trails. Okay. Now, these are the challenges. Not everyone in council have bought into cycling. It's something that you don't all believe in yet, and I'm trying to change that, and that's why I'm here today. I believe it's a great opportunity for us to gain revenue for our businesses, to add to the quality of life of our residents, and you don't all believe that yet. And it will take more than just me speaking here today to get you guys to drink the Kool-Aid. Okay? Certainly, residents have some issues. They're concerned about the way that people ride in our town. Our mayor has concerns as well, and we need to educate the people that are riding here on what our expectations are. But it has to be give and take. We have to have expectations of our residents, and we have to have expectations of the people that are riding here. Okay? And then, Ben's here. We've struggled to work from a cycling community with Public Works so far. So things like share the road signs, we've been talking about it for over a year, and I don't think we're any closer today than we were before. Maybe we are, but certainly there's no indication yet. Okay? And then we missed out on a huge opportunity. And certainly from my perspective. The Ontario Municipal Commuter Cycling Program, we didn't support. We turned it down 3 different times, and all of the different municipalities around Durham, or not all, but many, received an awful lot of money from that would have been really helpful when we go through the budget process. Okay, and actually I'll go forward for a second. second. There. So this is what a number of the different municipalities have gained. It's a little bit hard to see, but Ajax, $387,000. Durham Region, as the upper tier municipality, received $2.2 million. Markham was just under $1 million. Newmarket was just under $3 million. Oshawa over $500,000. Peterborough, $850,000. And this is the funny one. My father, who doesn't ride a bike, lives in Mamara, and one of his dreams is to have a way for people to hike and get from Lagoon City up towards Aurelia without going on Highway 12. And just in the last couple of years, he's been pushing his agenda, and he worked really hard to get council to support applying for this grant. They supported it in Ramera, and they got the funding. So he rubbed it in a lot over Christmas. And then we'll keep going. Richmond Hill, $600,000. Skugog, just under 100. Whitby, 425. York Region got 3.5. And overall in Durham Region, all of the upper tier and all of the local municipalities got $3.2 million, which means that they'll get $4 million worth of projects done, and it's 80% funded by the provincial government. So there was a lot of great things, a lot of great projects. I've got them listed in a very long format if you want to see what we got here in Durham Region. Okay, and going back, so the wins, where we've gotten so far, a lot of the Uxbridge Council are on board and support this program. We've got an Uxbridge Cycling Club right now that are as motivated as our Trails group were, 20 years ago. And they want to help, and they want to put money into these programs, and they want to make things happen. The media have been really, really supportive of this. Our tourism map now includes a perfect Uxbridge cycling loop. The one in the past it went up Durham H, which was, any cyclist would be concerned about riding on Durham 8. There's more traffic and less shoulder. Local businesses are seeing an uptick in business. Places like the Second Wedge, you'll see bikes there constantly. And then we've had some great events. So the Epic Lake to Lake Adventure that went from Beaverton Harbor to Ajax was very well supported, and we were a partner in that. Every year we have Ontario mountain bike races here, and there's 500 or 600 riders that come. And then the Uxcycle event was a blast. Everyone had a great time, and they hope to do that again, and it's on our agenda. Okay? And then I had a number of cycling goals. Some we've accomplished and some we haven't, but I'm still moving forward. I've got lots of other goals too. Cycling is certainly not the only thing on my list of things to do here. And then, the program. So it's 80% funded by the province of Ontario. We must have a cycling or active transportation plan that's funded by the provincial government to move forward. And I think we also, on our wish list this year, we talked about safe pedestrian safety programs, and active transportation could work into that. Okay, and then this program put on by the Ontario government was so successful, and actually my figures are wrong on this. I looked it up again when I got home last night. They initially said there'd be 42.5. First they said they doubled it, but it's actually $93 million that they put into cycling infrastructure in Ontario. And unfortunately, we got none of that here. Okay? I talked about the $3.2 million that we got in Durham. Now, 2018, this program isn't dead by any means, but it's funded through the Cap and Trade program, through climate change. So there's no dedicated funds to it yet. They haven't allocated anything. But this program is not dead, and they will be allocating. Obviously, the Ontario government supports this because they more than doubled. Okay, and these are my recommendations. I feel we should put a team together of 3 to 7 people to work on getting our grant submitted, work on our project list that would obviously have to be supported by council, to move forward. And then for our wish list, I believe we should be adding the $20,000 that we talked about for an active transportation or cycling plan, we have to work at what we say on what type of plan it is. Because if it's a cycling plan, it gets 80% funding. If it's an active transportation plan, it gets 40% funding. So we may want to just have a cycling plan that also concentrates on active transportation, but that's part of what the team will need to do. I am certainly not an expert on this. I've read a lot of material, but we need to assemble a group that knows the ins and outs of this so that we have the very best chance of getting this funding. And if we apply and we don't get it, we lose some time, volunteer time, my time, but we won't lose any money because we won't spend anything to really get this thing done. And I think that's, oh, and then some of the possible projects, and the Uxbridge Cycling Club supports this. In no way are we suggesting that we put bike lanes up the 6th concession. What they want to concentrate on, and what I think we should be concentrating on, is making of Uxbridge so that which is commuting. So we're using a bike to go from A to B where you would have normally driven. That's commuting. So when I take my daughter to ride to Kawartha Dairy to get ice cream, that's commuting. Okay? And these are some of the ones I was thinking of that we already have Bob's team working on, which would be, our trails are not great to ride right now, some of the trails, because they're underwater. So if we raise the tread, I think we will be able to get access to this. This will also fund trails if it's being used for commuting. So something like the Mason Bridge Trail, for all the trails throughout the Quaker Common, that type of thing could be funded through this. A link from South Balsam to Campbell Drive would be fantastic because it would link the subdivisions, Quaker Village, and all the houses near South Balsam. It could link it to theirs, Vince's, places like that, where we have great sidewalk infrastructure, but it's hard to get to. And then, you know, we've talked about access to the dog park. This could also, hopefully, that could be an approved project as well. And that's it.
Any questions? Councillor,
Got those funding, is it project-based? In other words, do they have to approach the province and say, this is the project we want to do, will you fund it, or is it a broader type?
Oh, yes. They all needed to have a cycling plan, so anyone who didn't already have one, so we could talk about Whitby's actually, that would be the easiest. They already had a cycling plan, and they had a list of projects that they already wanted to get done.
So the funding was based on that list of
Yeah.
projects, right?
So as part of your cycling plan, you develop a certain number of projects. The application is quite minimal. The project list also isn't huge, you just have to have some details on that project. As you're working through it, before you actually start, you have to do your cycling counts to know
what you're
so
doing.
that once you're done the project, you know how much you accomplished through it.
So does the funding come in then at the end? In other words, we do the project, we do the build. Do we submit the bill then to the province? How does that work?
And this would be a better Donna question. I think that's typically how all of the funding works, where we do the work,
So it's back-ended.
and I think it's typically back-end. Donna, am I correct with that?
It usually states in the application on how the funding will be. Some of them, they fund up front, and some of them we have to submit cost before we get funded.
Okay.
So I'm not sure about this one, but
Yeah.
it would be in the paperwork.
So
Okay.
from a budget perspective then, if we were gonna do, let's say, 6 projects, would we have to budget for them ahead of time in the budget and then recoup the money through this program? Is that how we would do it?
And it would depend on the situation. That's obviously the way it's gonna work for the culvert, where we spend all the money and then we get it back.
Okay.
But I'm not certain on that, and again, in no way am I an expert on these things. But,
No, I know, but I appreciate what you're bringing forward. So what's the difference then between an active transportation plan and a cycling plan?
Okay,
Or
so-
are they linked, or?
They're linked, because where you can ride a bike, you can walk or ride a skateboard or whatever, right? So active transportation is whenever you're using calories to get from A to B and not gasoline.
Right. So if you mentioned going to Kawarth for ice cream is technically commuting.
Yeah, because I'm picking
would that come
up,
under active transportation, or would it come under cycling?
well,
Or both?
and I think it would depend on how the funding worked. It looks like when it's cycling, it means that, it's 80% funded. If it's active transportation, it's 40% funded. But the plans sort of link, because if you can ride a bike on a trail or on a paved sidewalk,
Right.
you can also walk. You can also take a wheelchair, you can also ride a skateboard.
So does the active transportation deal with the commuting portion, and the cycling is recreational or other?
So,
Or I'm kind of confused as what's the difference between the two plans,
Well,
right?
really nothing. This is mostly a cycling program, but
Right.
active transportation and cycling use the same infrastructure. So
Right.
what we gain by cycling, we can use for active transportation.
So to apply under one plan or the other,
So
what
we would,
qualify versus the other? I'm just
So-
trying to get my head around
yeah, no,
what that is.
so, and that would be something we'd really work on, where that team would come together, but,
Right. Because if you're gonna get more money, obviously, under the cycling component, then you would apply primarily, I would think, under that plan.
Right.
And then, as you say, 40% versus, was it 80% on the other?
yeah, 40% versus 80. So this is how I would say it. When I'm selling this thing to you, I'm gonna sell it as cycling and active transportation. When we sell this thing to the provincial government, who are gonna give us the money, we'd sell it more under the cycling side.
Cycling, okay,
Because that's what they're most interested in funding.
right, thanks.
Pat, you had a question as well?
I do. Oh, Mayor, I just want to clarify something, Dave, just I have to put my finance hat on.
Yeah.
The fact that our assessment increases does not increase our tax base. I just want to be
Yeah,
clear.
oh, yeah,
Okay, I know you said that, I don't want any confusion, that's all.
No, no.
If our property values go up, that does not increase our tax base. I just
Okay.
want to be clear.
Fair enough.
Okay. Anyway,
but-
thanks, that's all.
It's fair enough. I understand that we spend a certain amount of money, and it's spread over between the full assessment of our municipality.
Well,
Well-
and I'll deal with it later with you, that's not how it works, but anyway, that's okay.
Councillor, Ballinger, and then Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for your presentation, Mr. Barton. I love the passion you bring with it. I think you should be aware that at Committee of the Whole at the region, Terry Clayton reported, he's the chair of the Regional Trails Connecting Group. They're changing. It's going to become an active transportation group. The structure is going to change where now you have 8 regional councillors going there from each municipality. There'll only be one regional councillor. The rest will be from the public. And they want to deal with exactly what you're talking about, walking, cycling, jogging, because it falls right under the new master transportation plan the region has put out. And part of the region's thing, when they're putting in roads and that now, they're going to do the shoulders. They're going to pave them. They're also moving up, stepping up the connectivity in certain areas for cycling, where you've got a spot, and if you only had to go 100 yards, you could connect the two places. So they're really going to work on, for safety factor, of paving that. So this falls under exactly what's happening at the region. And I spoke with a gentleman from Port Perry that got $91,000. We can do the same thing they did, and better.
Thank you for your presentation, Dave. Quick question for you. You had mentioned earlier in your presentation that it wouldn't cost us anything to put this together.
Well-
When you had talked about the group of 3 to 7 and putting all
Yeah.
that together, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had the conversation about the commuter plan,
Yeah.
wasn't there a $100,000 outlay to get in the game?
So if we get funded,
So you don't spend, I was under the impression we spend 100, we can get 80 back, correct?
so if we don't do the plan and then get funding, we apply to put a plan together and put our project list, just like Skewgout did. So we put our list, and then they announce, you get $92,000.
So
And
they
then-
didn't put any money up.
No, we never had to put money up.
I was under the and that's why I wanted to have it clarified.
Yeah.
I was under the impression we had to put up 100, of which we could possibly get 80 back, so we were still gonna be out of pocket 20 grand.
So, now with the wish list, yes, but, yeah, go ahead, Ingrid.
was gonna say that, the first actually do the study. So you would end up with the plan, and the plan then becomes the basis for any future funding. So you would apply to get funding for the plan, of which you would get a percentage. The province, I think, would pay up to 80% of the plan cost, so we would contribute our 20%. That plan then becomes the basis of any future funding, because what the province doesn't want to do is just willy-nilly say, you know, we're gonna just throw money at this, that, or the other thing. It has to be well thought out, so the plan's then been adopted by council, and then you're going back to the province for subsequent rounds of funding based on that plan, and what that plan is saying are the things that you're prepared to do. So just think of the plan as forming the basis of any future funding, but there is funding available to do the plan as well, as I understand it. No, there still are, no,
That's
no,
my question.
it would still be, we would still be contributing, I believe, up to 20%.
Up to 20%.
Right, and that's why there was money in the budget this year for a portion of money to go towards this. So there was money in the budget this year, I think it was $10,000 or $20,000.
We put in 20. On the wish list.
On the wish list, right. And then that would be our contribution towards getting the study done. We would use that 20 then in order to leverage funding at the provincial level to help make the argument that we are going to do the plan. So that money was for the plan itself, not to do infrastructure work, but to have that plan in place. And that was also one of the discussions as well. Back, if you flip back away from the cycling plan for a minute, back to the active transportation, if you remember, Trudy Ledsham came along with another lady, and they came and made a presentation about walking in this town and how there's a sidewalk here and it dead ends, and then you have to kind of cross the street, go a little bit here and a little bit there. It might actually, as Councillor Barton's trying to say, is it would kind of connect those dots as well to try and make it look at not just cycling, but how you move in this town as a pedestrian as well.
So are you saying that this plan would fund sidewalks to make these things connected?
Yeah.
Oh, what I'm saying is this
'Cause
plan, the plan would, what the plan would do is what it would hopefully do is it would identify what your strategic routes are gonna be. So if you're looking at everything as a whole, standing back and saying, okay, if we wanna be able to walk from A to B, you know, what are the missing gaps that need to be identified, and infrastructure money needs to go at it, rather than just saying, now you'd be able to look at it and go, people want to be able to walk to Zares, but if they're coming from, let's say, North Street, how would they get to Toronto Street? Is there gaps in there that should be filled with sidewalk that makes sense? So you're now looking at it all about how people move, rather than just, we want a sidewalk to go from point A to point B. You're looking at it at a much higher level to say, you know, we want to look at sort of that long-term transportation. I'm not saying it would fund sidewalks, but what Councillor Barton is getting to is if you go with that active transportation plan, if you have that component in there, you should consider how your trails link up, you should consider how your sidewalks link up, and how your cycling lines up.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Barton, for clarifying a few things, allowing a few things from your presentation in my mind, how it works, and just the linkage and the movement within our municipality. So thank you very much.
No problem.
What I have a couple questions. Number one is, Jack referred to a discussion we had at the region where Terry Clayton made a presentation. I also have to say that I questioned Terry because everything he spoke about was below Highway 7. And I said, we've got 3 northern. Unfortunately, the communication is more of a thing in the south than it will be ever in the north. So just to let you know that that whole presentation was very, very, well, actually it was more based on south of Taunton Road than it was anywhere else, because it was, specifically spoke about the 5 southern municipalities, because he kept referring to that in his, presentation. So that was, his presentation was basically on the southern municipalities of what could happen there. I think what I'd like to know, and maybe Dave you can't answer, I might have to ask Ben, is what happens with the maintenance of a road? Is there more maintenance required when there is a definite cycling lane on it? And I'm looking at, I guess, the safety aspect of it. And I'll let
Okay, I do
Okay.
on that. So, if you call something a cycling lane, more maintenance that would be required. If you have a paved shoulder that you can ride a bike on, there's not the same expectation. So what the recommendation was from our insurance pool was calling something a paved shoulder that people can ride their bike on, and that's what the region's doing, not calling something a dedicated bike lane.
Okay, so what we're not doing then what they are in the south, where they have bikes painted on that lane. We're not going to do that.
Do you want to answer that, Ben, or no?
Not at the present time. If you did a cycling plan and came up with cycling routes and built them, then you would have to dedicate them and maintain them.
Okay, so going back to the maintenance, what's the difference of maintaining a section of the road for vehicle safety versus cycling safety? You have to push it back further?
No,
I
I'm not exactly sure because we don't have any. It's something that we'd have to look into, but a car can drive through a pothole that's 3 inches around. If a bike hits that, then there could be trouble. The service level on a bicycle lane, dedicated bicycle lane, would be higher than the road. If we had a little 3-inch pothole in the road, we might leave it for a couple of weeks, but if you have it in a bike, a couple of days.
Okay. Yep.
Just to your comment, when will the regional cycle plan be out? Do we have it yet? Have we seen it? Is that what Terry's doing? Is he?
They already have.
Yes, they have
Do they
one.
have one?
Yeah, but is it going to change now that the trails and the cycling, what are they calling it now,
Active Transportation Plan.
Active Transportation Committee,
Yeah.
the Terry Clayton one, right? So is
Right.
that something we're gonna see soon, do you know?
Well, I mean, he made his, presentation, his yearly presentation on last Wednesday. But they have just, at the end of the year, I guess, they just basically, put these two things together as active transportation. So Jack sits on the committee, I don't, so.
No, this come up, it's at least 8 months ago. Actually, he was the guy from Port Perry that sat on the committee.
Ian McDougall.
Ian McDougall, that's correct. He sat on the committee and went through all the things. And when they looked at the regional transportation master plan, they wanted to put this in so it fits in. And the guy that spoke, well, he would anyway because he's a cyclist, is Steve Parrish from Ajax. But I'm sorry to hear Terry spoke so much about the South, because it was actually a guy, Ian McDougall from Port Perry, that did most of the work on this. So, anyhow, yeah, if you need a copy, I'll get you a copy. Okay.
Okay, and can I speak to that statement that you made before, Mayor O'Connor? So one of the reasons why they're speaking mostly about the South is because we're not we haven't done a lot for active transportation in Uxbridge. We don't have an active transportation plan. It's hard to talk about infrastructure in the northern communities if they're not actually doing much. But we have a seat at the table. We just approved another member from Uxbridge who's passionate about active transportation to go onto that committee. If we have an active transportation plan and a cycling plan, there will be a lot of talk about Uxbridge in those regional meetings. And the cyclists from the south typically use our northern routes because that's where the hills are, that's where they can really put in the miles without having a ton of traffic lights. So that's why we see people at Anita's, that's why we see people ride up Ashburn into Uxbridge through Brookdale Road. There's a lot of people that are doing this, and it's mostly people from the south. The goal is to get them to spend money while they're here.
And Councillor, you're okay.
I was also gonna say that there is that one outstanding item that we haven't resolved either, which is cycling infrastructure, and we had talked about this when we were talking about downtown. And we know that a lot of the businesses downtown have talked about wanting to have their own individual bike racks. So something like a plan like this might speak to, you know, where you can actually establish a cycling hub in the downtown, and where parking should be, where people can at least see their bikes, and what's the proper thing to do. What it might help you to do is it might help you to make good decisions on where you should be spending some of that money, i.e. sidewalks, or where bike racks should be located, or what other infrastructure might go with it. And those would be the kind of things that I can see that longer term you would be applying to the funding from the provincial level and trying to get that 80 cents on every dollar to be able to put back into the infrastructure that you want to support cycling.
Yeah, and they talk about funding bike racks. So that fits right in. So it means we get, 10 bike racks for the price of 2.
Okay. Not to belabor it, because we've been talking now for 3/4 of an hour on this. I would like, I guess I'm very skeptical of kids riding their bikes to school because we have a plan. Kids aren't allowed to walk to school today. And I don't understand that, but their parents seem to think that they have to get them to school to make sure they get there. And, from a long distance, I understand that, but when we went to school here, we came home at lunch hour, we went back, and I don't mean me, my kids did that as well, as probably, well, you wouldn't have.
I bust, but yeah.
Yeah. But, it would be nice if kids were allowed to ride bikes to school, but I don't see that happening anytime soon because of the how can I say this, anxiety of the parents. So okay, so can we, with the budget, and I would suggest that we take into consideration the presentation that was made today, and when the budget comes back to us, we'll have another look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll refer this presentation to the budget. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I need a motion, please. Moved by Pat Malloy, seconded, do I need a second or no? Seconded by, moved by Pat Malloy. I don't need a seconder. All those in favor, carried. Okay, I will now pass it over to Finance and Emergency Services Limited.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I'll call the Finance and Emergency Services Committee to order. The first item on the agenda is Correspondence 226. This is Region of Durham regarding interim regional property tax levy. Pretty standard stuff this time of year. Any questions? Mayor O'Connor?
Councillor, I'm going to move 226, 227, receive for information. We've spoken about both of these, and it's just the region informing us about the property tax levy as well as the regional transit development charges.
Moved by Mayor O'Connor, questions? Councillor Hyatt?
Just on the 227, I know we've discussed transit in the north versus transit in the south. Was there any discussion when this came up about, you know, preferential rates for the people in the north or anything like that, Jack?
I'll be pleased to answer that, Councillor Hyatt. The first thing is, on October the 11th, when we had the public meeting at the region, two people were in the crowd, and no one asked any questions on this. The heavy loading is going to fall to the south. Our agriculture is exempted, and to the north we're mostly agriculture. Even though we have 54% of the land mass in Durham region in the three northern communities, we only have 8% of the population. On the forecast of 2031, when it showed how many people were going to be in each community and it showed how much building was going to go on, very little in Uxbridge, some in Port Perry with the new sewage disposal, and some in Brock. Not very much building at all. The people to the south, with the exception of Ajax, because it's pretty well built out, are going to be hit heavy with all these development charges. It's a win-win situation for us here in the north, because the money's going to come from the south, and as you can see, the increase in bus transportation to the north is even going to become more. There's going to be more routes. So it went through Regional Council and was passed, and it's, I see a letter on there from the Build community. They sent it because they wanted to see why it had changed. Well, at that time, the Master Transportation Plan wasn't finished. So that's included now in the Master Transportation Plan. So for us, it's a win-win situation.
Okay, Mayor O'Connor has a motion. Are there any questions over motion? That's to receive items 226 and 227. All those in favor? Carried. Item 228, this is the Durham Regional Police regarding the Next Gen Communication Platform.
I'll move that staff respond to the request to be notified of any development. The only couple that I could think of is the addition to the 6 Douglas and to 4 Victoria.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move, send that to, I guess, everybody. To the building department, is that where this is going? Is that what you're sending, or planning?
No, it needs to go to the Regional Police Services Board.
Okay.
Okay? So that they know, the police know, because they're concerned about the waves.
Exactly, the interference.
For their phones.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is 229. This is to support the polar bear plunge for the Durham Regional Police Services. Councillor Bryan?
I'll make a motion to support this, because I'm going to go in it. I'm going to take the plunge on February 2nd.
All right, good.
Yeah.
You'll be plunging with me on my birthday.
Well, nothing says fun like hanging out with you on your birthday, Jack. You're going to do it?
I'm thinking seriously.
All right, so there we go.
How about if we just support you going in it from the Township of Uxbridge? Anyway, Mayor O'Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to make a motion that we I would suggest $200 if there's 2 of them going in, 100 each.
Great.
I will not be going in.
All righty. So we're going to have, one motion to receive it, another motion to move the recommendation Mayor O'Connor has made. Is that what you're saying, Debbie?
No, Councillor Bryan moved a motion to support,
Right.
and then Mayor O'Connor's moved a motion that we refer it to the Gulf Fund.
Okay, so how about we just drop yours, Fred, and go with them, move it to the Gulf Fund? It means the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
What do you think?
So
Is that
refer
okay?
to the Gulf Fund for $200.
Okay, support and move it to the Gulf Fund.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Debbie? Great. Okay, any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is item 220. This is a letter from Bev Northeast regarding the registration fair that we have every year at the, arena. Any questions? Counselor Hyatt?
Support it.
Supported by Counselor Hyatt?
It's a good event, and it's easy for people to get to sign up for their various activities.
Great, yeah, it is a good event, it's a great event. Mayor O'Connor?
Could Counselor Hyatt add that, Karen needs to get in touch with, Bev Northeast
Bev?
regarding the dates?
Absolutely. I'll
Because
make that
there's no
amendment.
dates there, that just
Yeah.
says February and September.
Does she usually contact? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they get,
Okay.
they get.
Yeah, but we can add that to the motion, sure.
Friendly amendment. Great, any other questions on the motion? All those in favor? Carried. This is item 231, from Uxbridge Minor Lacrosse Association.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Mayor O'Connor?
I think we should refer it to the arena manager regarding the request for a fee reduction. And let's hear what he would suggest. But I do support the, storage space release. If they're not using it and they're having financial difficulties, then, they don't need that added, cost.
Great.
So, I would, yeah, that's.
You're referring it to, okay. And maybe we can, Bob can come back to us with what our costs might be.
Right.
Give us some idea where we stand. Okay?
Just have a look at it, Bob, and, you know, if you don't recommend it, that's good too.
Okay.
But I'd like to hear from you.
Okay, so we're gonna release him from the contract and then refer to Bob, to get some costs back and see what his recommendations might be. Any questions? Motion, all those in favor? Carried. On the addendum is item 241, or 249. This is regarding the half marathon, the 11th annual, on April the 15th at Wooden Sticks. And they're asking for a request for sponsorship. Counselor Hyatt's gonna
Refer to the golf fund?
How
Yeah.
much?
Are you gonna pick an amount?
What's the
Counselor
standard
Hyatt?
rate? I don't recall what it was.
200 probably.
200?
I don't know what we gave them last year, I don't remember.
Well, we could match what we did last year. Have we? Yeah. You have so many of these, I lose track. I'll just refer it and let the
Just
golf
refer it
fund
to the
make a
golf fund.
decision, yeah.
Mayor O'Connor, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say whatever we've given them in the
Okay.
past, we should give them the same.
Okay. So moved by Counselor Hyatt.
Mhm.
Are you okay, Debbie? You understand what he said?
Just usually we'll give support for the use of the property too.
Oh, okay.
I'll add that, thank you.
Great. All those in favor? Carried. Alrighty, just a minute. Reports to committee. This is from, Donna Condon. This is, report TR 0118. This, okay, letter of credit
Letter
release.
of credit release, yeah.
It's moved
I'll
by
move it.
Counselor Hyatt. Support the recommendation.
Yep.
All those in favor? Carried. Yes, I'm done. Is there any unfinished business? Other business? On the accounts.
I'll move them, Mr. Chair.
I have a couple questions, if you don't mind, Mayor
Sure.
O'Connor,
Go
on the
ahead.
accounts. One thing that I'm sort of looking at is we changed a lot of our water testing over to another company last year, and I would really like, perhaps Karen or someone to look into the cost of the water testing, because it's very inconsistent when you look at what the number of times they tested Goodwood, and that it's twice as much money. One month it's $84, the next month it's $100, it's double, and I don't know what the protocol is and whether it's actually every month, but it seems the numbers are way out of whack to me. And I was curious about one thing, whether or not the arena uses the same company that the rest of the township uses or not. And maybe, Bob, you could answer that question at some point in time.
The arena doesn't use it.
Well,
They're on
there was,
services.
what water was there at the arena? Is there any testing at the arena? Maybe it was something they fixed on the bill. Okay, it wasn't that, okay, all right, okay, must have been. Anyway, that's the only thing I really had a question on, it is that the water seems to be very inconsistent with the testing, and I'd like an explanation if you wouldn't mind. Councillor Barton, question?
I'm out of practice. All right. So I'm just curious on what happened with the ceiling repairs at the music hall, what that was for $6,700 to CartCon.
Ben, would you like to come forward?
No, that's hers. It's right there. No, you didn't.
Some of the tongue and groove wood above the stage was falling off the
Okay.
supports. So I think we had to take some of it down and
What did you do with the piece?
Okay.
tack it up to make sure it's safe.
Okay. And I have a couple more while Ben's here, if
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. Okay, the other one was, for you just a second. The Brookdale Road culvert, there's 131.6. Is that the end of it? What was the total for that project?
I haven't got the final bill yet. I think there's still, the holdback, and I think there was some work from the very end that we haven't paid for.
Okay.
So they're currently in the substantial completion part of it. They have to have 45 days for anybody that, is not being paid to submit a lien. So after that, we can get it all.
Okay. And how did that work in terms of our budgeted costs versus where that ended up?
I haven't got the final figures yet.
Okay. What are you anticipating will be high or low, or probably not low?
There's a couple entries here on the Visa card. I know we've talked about this in the past. Is there a way to break those numbers out, or is it just so complex that it can't be done? Because
Donna,
some
try to answer
we've
that,
got
Donna.
4,000, and there was another one for,
Yeah, so those are all broken out and they're charged to each of the departments.
they are?
Yes.
I just wonder why they group them under that category. You know what I mean? Like for town, for example, on page 93, right at the top there, it says CIBC Visa, and then expenses, and then a number. It doesn't tell you what they
Okay.
are.
Okay, we'll look into that. But it is broken out and charged
It
to
is?
each of the
Okay.
departments, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor O'Connor?
I was just gonna ask, I believe Councillor Bouncer, you're on the Music Hall Board?
Music Hall Board, yes, I am.
Yeah. So regarding this, what's their position regarding the ceiling?
Regarding their,
Ceiling?
The work's done.
Hmm?
The work's done.
yeah,
I know, but, well, then okay. I'll talk to
The Music Hall Board knew about it.
yeah?
Yeah, and they knew it needed to be done.
So they're okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that.
Councillor Barton?
Just one last one while you're here, Ben. We had RC Environmental Services do a septic clean out, I think at the Stanford Hall, for $690. That seems high.
That included a new sewage pump. The pump failed as well.
That makes way more sense. Thank you.
I have a quick question just on the expenses, and that it's probably just worded improperly, and it's on the pool budget for BWK Construction for $500,000. I'm sure that's not all consulting. It says consulting field to Uxbridge. I'm sure that's for the actual. It says consulting. I'm sure that's not all.
BWK
It should
is
say
the
construction.
contractor.
What's that? Should say.
BWK is the contractor, it won't be consulting.
No, I just wanted to clarify that, so it's not, because it looks like $500,000 to a consultant. Anyway, it's under the pool category, though, believe it or not. I understand it's not, but that's where it is. Okay. Are there any questions? It should be under where?
It should be under Parks then.
Oh, all of those? There's a couple. Okay, you'll have to sort it out. Okay. All right. Any other questions on the accounts? No? Alrighty. Questions from the press? Yeah. What have
We
you
have
got?
to go on the accounts. We have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other questions on the accounts? Somebody like to make a motion to Councillor Barton? Oh, Mayor O'Connor already did. All those in favor? Carried. Question of the press? No? No? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good morning and thank you and Happy New Year to you all. It's so nice to have a council when you can come here and you don't have to see pictures of your colleagues here on the walls. I think people are going to realize what I'm hinting at. And the other thing is, you're not having the costs for an audit for your mileage charges. It's so nice that we're not in this predicament. So, and the real questions is, I see in the accounts there's a lot of mileage charges. What do we pay per kilometer, please, to the employees?
Donna can answer that for you.
It's currently 54 cents.
I'm sorry?
It's currently 54 cents.
54?
Yes, and
Thank you.
Don't even answer.
Okay, for the arena, there's Gray Sports for a charge of almost $1,048. These appear to be clothing and pieces of garments for the employees. Do the employees pay for any of this, or is this part of their benefits?
I think it's part of what they require to work. I think it's a uniform.
Okay, thank you. In the clerk's department, there are two charges representing almost $3,500 to Port Perry Animal Hospital dated December the 21st. Does Skugog pay half of those? Would they have a $3,500 charge too?
This is the total charge. Donna can answer that. Can you answer that, Donna, for him? There you go.
So we do pay all the bills, and then it's split 50-50, so
Oh,
Fort
okay,
Perry
okay,
will-
so we pay the bills and then they come into half. Okay, thank you. Roads. For Skugog rental, on December the 13th, and I'll say this slowly, there is a gas post pounder for $5,305. That's a lot of money for a gas post pounder. I wonder, what's the cost to buy one?
We'll have to come back with the info. I don't have it.
But, oh, so you bought it from Skugog Rental, you didn't rent it? Okay, thank you. Okay, my last question is, and it's in part to what Mr. Hyatt spoke, in the town department, there are I could find three different line entries for the CIBC Visa, and the total of the three entries represent $19,843. What is the maximum one-line charge that can go against this CIBC Visa account, please? Just to help Donna, there's $4,271, there's $9,427, and there's $6,145 for the $19,843.
Yes, there is a limit on the card,
Can you tell me what that is?
$20,000.
$20,000? $20,000. Somebody can go on a Visa, CIBC, $1,000.
Well, no one would spend that much. It's, the Visa is meant for small charges,
Yeah.
so no one would go on and spend $20,000 on the credit card. These are for small dollar charges.
Okay, so, let me try it again
He's
then.
asking what the limit is.
What's the limit? If I want to go and spend $3,500, and can I put that against the Visa card? Or if I want to go spend $5,000?
No, on each of the cards, there's a $5,000 limit.
Okay, any one line against the card cannot exceed the $5,000, correct?
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Alrighty, I will, turn this over to, if there are no other questions, turn this over to Tourism, Heritage, and Community Programs.
Thank you very much, Councillor Malloy. I'd like to open Tourism, Heritage, and Community Program Committee. Reports for committee, Report RC 0118 of Don Cook, Trail Coordinator, Durham Trail Coordinating Committee, membership change, David Taylor is stepping down, and Phil Smith has expressed an interest on joining the committee. Any, Councillor Malloy?
I have a question. Just, it seems a bit strange to me. We've had this issue with a few of the other boards. Is it customary that our committees provide us with a short list? I understand they provide us with a recommendation, but all of the candidates should come to council, not a short list. I know that we've had this issue with a few other committees, so we should see the entire list, not just a short list. If there are in fact other applications for the position, which it indicated here there were. In other words, the committee can't just come back and say, we picked this person. We have to be open and transparent and make sure that all those people that applied, just want to point that out.
No, very good.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I will look into this. I was under the understanding that Mr. Smith was already on the committee, and that's why I didn't pick it up, but let me look into this, and if that is not the case, then we will deal with it through our normal reporting. So, my apologies.
No offense to the person on it, I mean, I'm fine with that, it's just, it's not the, common practice.
Councillor Ballinger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two people were interested in this at the Trails meeting here in Uxbridge that, wanted to take David's spot. Both good people, both very interested in the job. But, they phoned down to the region and they asked if there's a possibility we could have two people. And they said, no, you can have one and you can have an alternate. So these two people, was it Trudy Lidson? Yeah. Trudy was the second one, and she agreed. She said, I'm fine with that. So she said, I can be I'll be an alternate if Phil can't make it. But both those people are wonderful choices. Yeah.
So,
Dave,
yeah.
go ahead.
So Phil Smith is on the Trails Committee, and because of his interest in active transportation, as it was changing from more trails-based to more active transportation, David Taylor had less interest in it, and Phil Smith had more interest in the position. Trudy and Phil discussed on, who would be the best fit, and they agreed that, with Phil as the main, and then Trudy filling in when Phil was traveling, because he just retired.
Sorry, but I'm not questioning any of their abilities, I just, it's the process.
Yeah. Yeah, now, just, the only difference is, we only had one person who actually wanted it. So it wasn't a short list, there was one person on the list who agreed to do the job. Okay.
It just, the report says there were a number of people applied, and this is the one we picked, that's what the report says.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess from our department's perspective, in terms of if council is making an appointment, even in, like I said, the reason I didn't do anything with this related to officially advertising or getting resumes or applications was because Mr. Smith, I understood, was already on the committee. So I guess my question to committee today is, if we are appointing from someone who's already on a committee to a regional position or any other position, do you want us to go through a full-blown request for appointment, like what we normally would for a regular committee position?
Mayor O'Connor?
Well, now the committee's gonna be short a member, is that correct? So this person will look after both, okay. So there's no need.
But to answer your question, I would say, yeah, if we're making an appointment to a regional committee, council should see the whole list, not a short list.
No, but Debbie's saying, does she have to go through a whole process?
So,
advertising and...
through you, Madam Chair, to committee. So when we advertise for one of our regular, so say for example, I was filling a vacancy on the Trails Committee, our own municipal Trails Committee. What we do is we go out, we advertise, or people send in applications if they know there's a vacancy. I now circulate that through council as part of a confidential report, and the selection is made. The reason I didn't do anything with this, as I said, is because he was already on a committee and was applying or asking to be appointed to a regional committee. Staying on Trails Committee, he would then sit as our rep at the regional level. So, my question to you is, does committee want me to go through the same process in that I would ask Mr. Smith for his resume or application. I would circulate that to you regardless of whether there's 1 or 20, and then from that you would make your selection and recommendation. That's my question.
Mayor O'Connor?
Okay, so this is for a regional position. We don't go through the applications for DAC, which is the Durham Agriculture Advisory Committee. We don't go through it for Durham Region Environmental Committee. It's a regional appointment. They make the appointment. We have nothing to do with it. So it's just one person that is now going to be serving on 2 committees. but the appointment will be made at the region, and it should show up on our agenda that the region has appointed Mr. Smith, to the, Active Communications, Committee.
Councillor Ballinger?
Yes, I concur with the mayor. I think it's important that the person, if it's like the Durham Trails Coordinating Committee, which it was, I think it's important that we have someone on the trails here that goes there, because then they can report back to all the trail people in Uxbridge exactly what's happening throughout the region. So I don't think it's necessary at all.
So, what do we,
Okay, so I think it's necessary if it was an appointment to the Uxbridge, okay? But we don't make appointments for the region, okay? So, could I just ask, I forget who made the motion now.
nobody did.
Well, whoever's gonna, or I can make the motion that we support the recommendation and a letter of appreciation be sent to David Taylor.
Sounds good. All those in favor of that motion? Carried. Okay, is there any unfinished business? Is there any other business? Any questions from the press? No? Any questions from the audience? Okay, I'd like to close, Tourism, Heritage and Community, Committee, and pass it on to Parks and Facility, and Arena, to Ms. Ballinger.
Thank you, Councillor, Peach. Bob, you wanna come up and take the seat, please? Okay, I refer you to correspondence, number 232 with James Boughton with the Uxbridge Cycling Club, a request to use Elgin Park to host, Ux Cycle 2018. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. First of all, I find this letter a little confusing. It says in the letter that the event does not preclude other residents from enjoying the park, but then it goes on to say, as Ux Cycle 2018 is exclusive event in the park. So, those two are conflicting for sure. You know, they're asking that the washroom, both locations be, open, which we have a cost to, and, certainly the vendors will require power, and the park is made available free of charge for the event. My concern is when there's any charges, when there's any event in the township is being, has, costs against it, that we ask the user of the park to cover those costs. Now, that's the same for the fair, anything that goes on there. So, we're not there to make money from them, but we're there to cover our costs. And I think that, what we have to do now is get back, to Jamie and tell him that there will be some costs, because the township has got costs. But it's only to cover our costs, nothing else. Okay?
Any other questions from, committee? Councillor Hyatt, please.
Do we know if Ux Cycle is a registered not-for-profit, Dave? Do you know if it is, or?
Certainly Ux Cycle wouldn't be.
And
But
they are?
I'll ask that question.
I mean, I'm just wondering, are they charging these vendors or whatever to appear? If so, you know, I'm struggling if they're a not-for-profit, it's kind of a double negative, then they should be paying for something, maybe in addition to the usual stuff, because someone's making money out of this, if that's the case. If it isn't, then I don't have an issue, but I think we need to find that out.
And from last year, they got a grant and spent at least as much money as their grant. It wasn't a profit. They didn't make any money last year, and they don't
Well, if they're planning to
intend
put
this
money
year.
back into the plan or whatever, then I don't have a...
But for the most part, they're trying to go break even on this. And they are also applying for Ontario like different Ontario grants. But I can ask those questions, and we can even have Jamie come in if you'd like him to.
That's, Madam Mayor?
Just a minute. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, and I have that marked too, sorry. If they wanna move the seating risers, there certainly will be a cost for that. But the thing is, I thought they were registered, nonprofit. So, we need to clarify that, because, we'll also need a copy of their insurance naming us, okay? And when I saw the, in the request here that there's going to be vendors, certainly I hope those vendors are paying something, back to the organization, because, that's one way they can help offset some of their costs.
Okay, any other questions from committee? Then I would suggest this. I have some questions on this. I would suggest that Mr. Boughton comes here. Normally when some organization or some group wants to use Elgin Park free of charge, they come in here and make a deputation or a presentation and bring council up to speed, because in the end, we're gonna be responsible. So if I could suggest that he be contacted through you, Madam Clerk, and have him appear before council. If everybody's in agreement, could someone make that motion for me? Thank you, Councillor Bryan. All in favor of the motion? That is carried. You have a question? Yes.
I'll answer a question. I just looked on their website. Oxford Cycling Club is a not-for-profit.
Thank you.
One more time?
Oxford Cycling Club is a not-for-profit.
Okay. I'll now go to correspondence number 233 from Doris Stewart in regard to snow removal. And before I go into it, I'll ask Mr. Ferguson, what is our policy on that, Bob, in Elgin Park as far as removing snow around the paved areas?
Currently, we don't do any snow removal in the park. There's snow removal that is taken care of by the Festival of Lights, Fantasy Lights, and then they take care of that in-house. We don't do any snow clearing in there.
Okay, in regards to correspondence, go ahead, Councillor Malloy.
Just a quick question then. Would we had this issue at the dog park too, so we said the dog park is closed during the winter and we don't maintain it. Is Elgin Park closed in the winter? It's considered closed in the winter? Okay.
Madam Mayor?
I'd like to, refer this back to staff for what it would cost, because I think that that's an ideal place for people to walk, and if it isn't cost prohibitive, maybe we should look at it for next year. But I certainly, you know, it can't be done this year because nobody's got it in their budget. But it's something that a lot of people, I think, would use, and what it would require, and I think that the sidewalk is being plowed, isn't it?
Yes.
Up to.
All the way around the pond is being plowed, yes?
Yes, so really we're plowing the sidewalk to get into Elgin Park, but we don't get into Elgin Park. So that doesn't make much sense to me. Because if you're not, I mean, you can only walk as far as the gates now, and, you know, then you're on your own in the park. But, you know, we should look at that for next year. So I'll move that we refer it to staff for cost for consideration under the 2019 budget. And what I'm being asked here is recommended signs to be put up for skating not being maintained for this year. Well, you know, I don't know whether that's right or not.
I think we should find out from our insurer, because if people are using it and there's an expectation they're being maintained, sometimes you have to go that far out just to say that this park is not being maintained during these months. To say that it's not closed, I'm not sure if you went there and into Elgin Park that you'd see a sign that says this park is closed. Maybe that there is one, but the thing is, it would be good to maybe have it posted.
probably.
Councillor Hyatt, please.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One of them was related to that. By saying that we are clearing it, are we assuming any additional liability? Because the expectation then will be, it will be salted, it'll be sanded, it'll be free and clear 24/7, right? Can you answer that, Bob?
Yeah, that was one of my concerns when I seen this letter come forth is, if we do look at clearing the snow, then we would be responsible for, any slip and falls. So we are getting into clearing it. I think it should be salted if we're going to be.
So if we're gonna do it, we should do it.
We do it
Right.
right, but then
Yeah.
also we get into salting it. It's not a sidewalk where, it would probably be done by a pickup truck and, a spreader out the back. So then we could also get into the burn sections of the grass from the salt on the side throughout the park. There's a lot more that goes along with this request that's come through that will have to be taken into consideration.
But those, I know that the apparatus that you put in there, I mean, it's used a lot, and I've heard great things about it. So in order to create a meandering path in the winter, again, Mayor O'Connor's brought up a good point, is how much would that cost us? As you're saying, the level of service would have to be up there. It can't just be someone going around with a shovel every other day. It has to be maintained, so I'd be curious to see how much that would be. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Councillor Barton.
So from what I remember, when we asked to have the path through Veterans Park to Elgin Park plowed, that the additional cost for us was $3,500 from what I remember. Wouldn't it be a similar amount of money to do a similar sized path through the park, just like we do the sidewalks? And could we not use the same equipment we're already driving to the gate of Elgin Park?
Okay.
I think that probably we've referred it to staff.
Okay.
And what Bob has said, you know, probably need a truck because, the standard of maintaining it is going to be higher because you don't want people to go in there, try and use the equipment and then fall on the roads and that sort of thing. So that sort of thing, that councillor is referring to should be addressed as well in your report back, okay?
Okay, you've all heard the motion that it's to be referred back to staff. All in favor? And that's carried. Any unfinished business? Okay, other business, and I'd like a motion from someone to ask Carol Clemenson to come up, please, to the front. Carolyn? You give me that motion, please? All in favor? Carol, would you come to the front? I have something that's disturbing, so I think you're the person I should probably address it to. And you can correct me if I'm wrong in my assumptions, but a while ago, a student drowned in Toronto. And it was a pool, and my understanding, and correct me if it's wrong, the Durham Board now are not allowing students now to go into a swim program in any of our public facilities. Have you had any cancellations, or am I correct or incorrect in what I'm saying? Because I know there's a swim survival program for kids. I know there's things that are important, so could you shed a little light on that for me, please?
Thank you, Councillor Ballinger. Yes, we have had a cancellation for elective programs, so where the kids come in and do a public swim. The board is not allowing that. They are allowing the Swim to Survive program to continue. That is a structured program with instructors and a ratio of 1 to 11. To my knowledge, they are still allowing any Board of Education lessons when we do swimming lessons for the students, usually in May and June. They're not canceling that, but we did have a cancellation for the elective program, one school that comes to us.
Well, my understanding is still before the board, and they have not made a concrete decision, but I don't like what I'm hearing, so I'm saying to council, and maybe we should be writing a letter to the board, Durham Board of Education, because if they start canceling these swim programs, it's a big effect on monetary things and also on the students. And because one incident happened, I know how well patrolled, how you people and your lifeguards look after this, and yeah. Your worship, please.
I would suggest that if we have concerns, this is the first time I've heard about it, but it doesn't surprise me because when there's an incident in Toronto or anywhere else, the pendulum never stops in the middle. It goes from one extreme to the other. So I would suggest that what we do before we write a letter to the Board of Education, we ask our Durham trustee to come in and speak to us regarding this matter. So I'll make that a motion that the trustee be asked to make a delegation before council regarding the swim programs that are being offered by the board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that motion. And before we vote on it, I have two questions over there. Councillor Malloy first.
Just a quick point. Donna just pointed out to me that talk about the going to the extreme and the ridiculous. Quaker Village isn't allowed to use, Quaker Village Public School isn't allowed to use splash pad. So yeah, I'd love to speak to the trustee. Are they crazy? Yeah, I guess whatever, but it's still kind of...
Well, thank you for the info, and now I'll move over to Councillor Hyatt. Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, through you, Carolyn, elective swim, is that like free swim?
It is. It's where the kids come and
So there's
do
no
a public
lessons,
swim.
there's no
lessons.
instructions at
It's
all.
strictly like
just-
public swims.
yeah.
We supply guards, and we do a swim test as always at the beginning.
Right.
The particular school that was coming has a very strict teacher, and everything's very regimented so that
So even for a free swim environment, these kids are pre-screened. They're just not
Yeah.
allowed just to go in there at liberty, right?
correct.
Yeah. So I think that has to be part of whatever letter that we send in. And we have one of the safest pools that I know of in the area, so.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Carol. So we'll vote on the motion that Councillor or the worship put forward about having the rep from Durham Board come in. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you, Bob. Just 1 second. Questions from the paper, please.
Very quickly on the swimming pool issue, Councillor. If the board has cancelled its programs at Uxpool, what does that translate into in dollar terms to Uxpool?
Carolyn, please.
It really depends on the number of students. We only had one elective program booked at this time, so it was 3 weeks of electives, probably in the neighborhood of $300 to $400.
A year or a week?
Um,
or a month?
for the whole time. It might be a little bit more. It depends on the number of students that had signed up for that program. For the electives, they pay on a per child
My
basis.
concern,
week.
Roger, and I'll tell you my concern, if they canceled at this level, I'm worried about them canceling public swimming pools at other levels. I'm worried about other programs.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions from the newspaper?
Yes, I do actually. On Ux Cycle at Elgin Park, and they're looking for free rental or free use of the park, and they have vendors and they have a beer tent and so forth. Do events such as the Everything Equine by the Horsemen's Association and River, do they get the park for free?
No. And that's why we said that Oxcycle shouldn't get the park free. They've got to cover the municipal's costs. So whatever they make beyond our costs is theirs, but they've got to cover the municipality's costs. So costs of moving the bleachers, costs of washrooms, all that power, all that sort of thing. They'll be charged like every other user that uses Elgin Park for major events.
And I have another question. I'm a little loath to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Councillor Barton, I do believe, is a member of the Durham Mountain Bike Association. I do believe he's a member of the Uxbridge Cycling Association. And one wonders if there is a conflict of interest in here when he speaks on behalf of Uxcycle.
Well, you know what, a conflict of interest, Roger, has to be determined by that person. I can't say he has a conflict. None of us, we all have to determine whether in fact there is a conflict, but I can say in most ways a conflict is he deriving or is she deriving any monetary benefit from this. I can also say that perception is a big thing, and lots of times the perception is probably more of a concern regarding a conflict than maybe the monetary is.
Okay.
I'd like to answer that if you don't mind. Okay, so typically a conflict would be monetary, where I would gain some sort of monetary value from the Uxbridge Cycling Club or whatever. I am not a member of the Uxbridge Cycling Club, and I am a member of the Durham Mountain Bike Association, where I donate money to them. I don't get any benefits from them at all. So I think me speaking on their behalf to be a liaison between them and the township, I don't see that as being an issue. I think that's informing both groups of what's going on, from my perspective.
Okay, thank you.
And just to, Roger, just to pass this on, it's how people perceive it. When I was president of the Legion, if something come up concerning the Legion, I would always declare a conflict when I was president. But I'm a life member of the Legion now, and I'm not president. So if something comes up about the Legion, I would comment on it now, because I'm not holding any kind of executive position or anything. And there's all kinds of members of the Legion. So I see it's how you're perceived, and there is a fine line in there. And I think David explained it well when he said about the monetary. There's no monetary involved in this, so if that helps any. Any other questions from the paper? Anyone from the audience? Brock, please, take the microphone, please. Thank you.
Thank you. For Mr. Ferguson, is any of the, are both gates closed for Elgin Park, for people, for some young bucks in their high-flying pickups, where they can't get in there and start doing donuts? Are both those gates closed where you can't get in there during the winter months?
Yeah, all three gates are closed, all year long.
All year long? Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay, I'd like to turn this over to Councillor Barton now, Sustainability, Watershed and Conservation. Councillor Barton?
Sure. I'd like to open this meeting of Sustainability, Watershed and Conservation. I'm going to start with correspondence number 234. This is from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, Protecting Water for Future Generations, and public consultations. What would people, yes, Mayor Connor?
I'm going to suggest that we refer to this to staff for their consideration. It's more of an issue for them than it certainly is for us. So if they think that they should be going to any of these consultations, then, you know, they should go.
Okay. Okay, so, is there another question, Councillor Hyde? Yeah.
I mean, this is another one of these wonderful things that comes down from the province. If they're asking about mapping for moraines, waters, can they not approach the conservation authorities? That's what these guys do. I mean, this should not be something new, and maybe if it is, these people down at Queen's Park needs to give their heads a shake, because this information is already available. I'm not, are they reinventing the wheel here? I'm not clear on where they're going. If it is preliminary to a Greenbelt boundary review, that's fine, but that information is available anyway, so I don't know what they're planning to get from the municipalities, but at least they're reaching out, so I'll give them that much. Thank you.
You made a motion Am I correct,
Yeah.
Mayor Connor? Okay, so all those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay, the next item is, item number, on page 106, sorry, this is Conservation Ontario Renew Conservation Authorities Act, which will build a stronger environment. Yeah, sorry.
On the addendum, correspondence item 250, please.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is, from Mike Bender, Associate Director of the TRCA, the Goodwood Resource Management Tract Trail Plan Project, and an invitation to participate and as a Community Liaison Committee. Yes, I'll start with Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Councillor Bart. Now, this came up at Toronto Region Conservation. I had a question for them. My question was, when would the public meeting be held and where would it be held? And they haven't identified that yet. It sounds like it's going to be at Goodwood Community Centre, but they haven't come up with it yet. This management resource track in Goodwood, it's, for those that don't know where it is, it's between the second and third concession. It takes in 315 acres of natural heritage in there, natural grounds. It goes south as far as the Webb Road. What they're trying to do is create an entrance and probably trails into the Rouge Valley National Park, which is going to be the new big park there. So they're getting people together, and they want someone from the Watershed Committee to sit on the group, and they've got about 9 months in planning of what they're going to do with this. So that's what it's about.
Yep. Yes, Councillor High.
I'm just reading the last paragraph. Do they want council to appoint a watershed committee member, or is a committee going to appoint somebody? I'm not clear on that.
Well, I think on, can I speak
Oh, of
here?
course, yeah.
I think, Gord, on the, what we got here on the addendum, I think there's a letter there that went to the Uxbridge Watershed, Advisory Committee. It's dated December the 15th, 2017, so I would have thought they would have sent the letter to them.
Maybe Dave,
Yeah.
do you know
No,
anymore?
So the Watershed Committee meets this week.
Okay.
So
So they don't
this,
know yet.
I'll make sure this is on the agenda for that.
So I guess through you to the clerk, do we need to appoint someone, or are we going to let them do it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I didn't send it to the
Oh.
Watershed Advisory Committee because I felt it should come through council if they were going to refer it to them to appoint, or if you wanted to appoint. That's why, and we haven't had a council meeting since December the 14th, so that's why you're just getting it today.
Okay, and Councillor Beach.
Yes, I had an email from them just yesterday. It came through, that their tentative date is March 26th at the Goodwood Hall. And that's if they can get it booked, et cetera, for that meeting. So that much information I have. And, that I've also been invited to that meeting this week as being the council or rep, just for the ward.
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, just one more item of clarification. The email I received, this morning, it says the first meeting is scheduled for January the 19th at from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at TRCA head office. And please let me know ASAP if a representative is able to attend.
Okay.
This morning.
No, we're meeting, I think it's Thursday night.
Can I
And
suggest-
I didn't see this, just so you're aware, I didn't see this until I stepped into council chambers this morning. I didn't get the
Can I
agenda.
suggest that maybe the chair of the committee attends,
Yeah.
if at all possible?
That would make sense. I don't know, Christine, who's the chair, she has a full-time job, so I don't know if she can make a 9 a.m. meeting, but I'll discuss it with her, and if nobody else can go, I'll try and attend, so. All right, so what should we do with this? What do we as council want to do with this?
I'll make a motion to receive it and refer the representative appointment to the UAC committee, let them appoint someone. It's just to attend this meeting, correct? That's
No, they want that person that's going to
to sit on the community
to
liaison.
sit on the committee, so, and it's a 9-month thing, and,
But I don't think we can appoint anyone if we don't know what their availability is. That
Yeah.
should be discussed at least at that committee
when
level.
is your meeting?
I believe it's Thursday night.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
So we're
so
good for
maybe
time.
what you could do, Madam Clerk, is just let them know that there will be a rep there, but we don't know at this point, the name of the person. So,
Okay.
you know where the TRCA?
Yep. It's right by, 400 and 407.
Just look for IKEA.
While I'm there.
Start the car.
Okay. Now, Councillor Malloy, you had something to say, I think, on this.
It goes back to the conversation we had earlier. I mean, I think it can be a slippery slope if we have committees do the appointing without whether it's to the region or TRC or anywhere else. I would think that the committee would give us a list of those 2 or 3 or maybe 1, I don't know, people on that they would like to represent us at TRCA, and I just think that should come through council. I don't think we should leave these appointments just to the committees. I think we need to be open and transparent and make sure that all the applicants are considered here at council.
Well, I think the position we're in, the meeting is on Friday.
This is temporary this Friday. I don't think there's going to be an appointment by then anyway.
Well, they're going to make an appointment Thursday night
Well-
at the watershed.
I think it was a temporary position, wasn't it, just to cover the Friday meeting?
Yes, certainly we'll discuss it and find out. There may not be any interest. This is a committee that typically they're already fairly busy. So whether or not they decide they want to have a representative on this, I think this is an important project that we need representation for. But I don't even vote on that committee, so we'll see what they come up with. Okay, so all those in favor of this going to the watershed committee for input? Okay?
So, a further question then?
Yeah, okay.
So then, is the watershed committee going to suggest the person that will go? And then, are they going to put forth names and fill out the forms that we have to, state why they should be appointed?
So, first of all, we don't know if anyone...
Well, I know, but be appointed to go to this TRCA.
No, so, and I can't speak for the watershed committee. I can relay information to them and find out what their input is, but I don't know what they're gonna say.
Yeah.
Process.
Then
Yeah.
it's up to them to decide, I think, whether they want to send somebody or not.
So
I
if
would
there's
agree with you.
nobody, hopefully you will go on Friday then.
Yeah.
But if there's nobody on the watershed committee that has the time to go, then it's gotta come back to us to make a decision as to who is going.
Right. So I can speak to that during our council meeting next week and let you know what's happened, whether a member from the watershed committee went. Oh, was it really? I should have... I just got back late last night. Anyway, so I can relay the information back to council.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor of passing this off to the watershed committee? Okay, that's carried. Now, I believe the last item is the item number 6, page number 106, which was the Conservation Ontario New Conservation Authorities Act, will help build a stronger environment. What would we like to do with this? Receive? Okay, all those in favor of receiving? Okay, that's carried. And then we have, item numbers didn't show up on this list, but, this is page number 108, for the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, passing Bill 139, the Building a Better Communities and Conserving Watershed Act, 2017. Yes?
Just motion to receive it.
Okay. All those in favor of receiving, that's carried as well. And then I will pass this off to Public Works and, Councillor, Bryan.
Do you wanna go to the press first?
Oh, I should probably do that. press, any questions on any of this? Okay. And, the general public? Okay.
Did you have a question, Roger, or none? No,
That was
okay.
him waving it off. I'm getting used to his gestures. I think it's talk to the hand or something, I'm not sure. And then, I'll close this meeting of Conservation Watershed and, Watershed Conservation and pass it over to Public Works and Councillor Bryan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. I call to order this meeting of Public Works and Operations. First item is piece of correspondence, item 235, Region of Durham to the Honourable Stephen Del Duca, Minister of Transportation, regional response to Metrolink's draft 2041 Regional Transportation Plan, the Environmental Bill of Rights Registry Number 013-150, also known as 2017 COW 286. Any questions, concerns, comments? What would Council like to do with this? I know, eh? How come I get the big ones? I was making sure I didn't stumble over it. Councillor Malloy.
I mean, I guess all we can do is receive it. It's already been approved by the region, so.
All right, motion to receive. All in favor? Carried. Next item, much smaller. Item number 236, Region of Durham update and review of policy regarding public art installations on the regional infrastructure. Questions, concerns, comments? Mayor O'Connor. Okay. Okay. All in favor of that motion? Carried. Next item, 237, Municipality of Clarington to Leslie Wu, Chief Planning Officer, Metrolink's Draft 2041, Regional Transportation Plan for the Greater Golden, Toronto and Hamilton area. Anybody have any thoughts on this? Councillor Hyatt?
I have some thoughts, but I'll just make a motion. You probably don't want to hear those, but I'll make a motion to receive it.
All right, all in favor? Carried.
Just one comment, I think taking that thing out to Bowmanville is far overdue, and it will make a huge difference to transportation. If you've ever been to Oshawa Go in the morning, it's complete in that house.
Yeah.
So by taking it farther east, I think you're going to relieve some of that pressure.
So I'm glad I did call on you. That was good.
You did, yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
idea.
Avoiding eye contact doesn't help. Next item, item 238, Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides, read Lions Foundation of Canada Pet Value Walk for Dog Guides event on Sunday, May 27th, 2018. Councillor Malloy.
I'll make a motion to support that event.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Next item, item 239, a letter from Laura McKenzie. Read the concerns regarding an unsafe crossing walking situation to the Uxbridge Montessori School. I'll go to Councillor Hyatt first and then Mayor O'Connor.
Yeah, Councillor Bryan referred this to me last week. I've responded to Ms. McKenzie. I've advised her that a sidewalk is planned on the east side in the 2018 budget, at least up to John Harvey. I've had discussions with Mr. Kessler over this. Over time, we're hoping to push that sidewalk even further, right up to the fields of Uxbridge, so that it will allow us to do the development there and have a safe pedestrian access to it. As far as the crossing guard, Ben, I'm not quite sure. I've been up and down that stretch many times in the last week looking at alternatives. I can't see, maybe we could refer this to you, where a guard could possibly go. I can't see one unless it's the lights at the corner, but then you're not on a sidewalk anyway, so it's... Have you got any thoughts on that? No? Okay, that's helpful, thank you. Again, I've advised Ms. McKenzie. I don't know, I said that council would discuss this, assuming that the agenda... Ingrid, maybe the complaint came to you. Have you had any more correspondence? No?
Mayor O'Connor and then over to Councillor Barton.
I suggest that the councillor has responded to the resident regarding her concerns, and at this point I do not see the need for a crossing guard, and once the sidewalk's in, then there's sidewalks on both sides. I have to say, most people drive their kids to that school. That's why we have the bus stop there and the school crossing signs or school signs. So I would suggest that we just receive this for information as the councillor has dealt with it.
Thank you, Your Worship, and over to you, Councillor Barton.
Just a question on that sidewalk. Through you to Ben. That sidewalk, we've already got it slated for 2018 to John Harvey. What's the cost of that? Do you remember what, approximately what we put towards it?
I think it was 60,000 in the budget.
Okay. Again, going back to my presentation, we could possibly leverage that 60,000 through this commuter cycling plan to get all the way to the Fields of Uxbridge. Because we would then, the 60,000 would be 20% of the cost. We could get an awfully long way towards our total goal with that 60,000.
All right, thank you, Councillor Barton.
What are you thinking?
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hyatt?
Additional point, part of the complaint, again, Ingrid, I didn't take the complaint, so it was talking about snow accumulation on the existing sidewalk or something to that effect. Were you able to deal with that?
The email that I had back with her, I mean, there's a concern about the maintenance on the sidewalk, but the sidewalk doesn't exist. Right? So we're not maintaining a sidewalk there because we don't have a sidewalk there. And her, the path. Okay, yeah, but we're not maintaining the path, which through email correspondence she understands. I think she's going to be happy to know that the sidewalk will be going in 2018 and that it will be part of our regular sidewalk maintenance, is what she's hoping. Do we maintain we will maintain up to Montessori or no? That's the other discussion. Right?
Who would
It's
maintain
the same
that?
as anything else. It's not in front of municipal property, so the property owners would be responsible.
So we're going to do the little section of where our park is. Then we're going to leave it where that derelict building is, and they'll have to do it. The region will do it in front of the water plant. And then flooring will do their section, so forth. But we've got a little wee section in there.
Just over the railway tracks.
No,
I don't think we own that property to get into the region. I think it's an easement, but I can check.
no, we need to do the part from the last house on, as you come out, right where the sidewalk ends, right where Toronto Street comes out to meet Main Street, right?
It's south of the old building.
Yeah, so
There's a section there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
an old right of way.
Right.
Yeah, we do that.
So you're gonna do that little section?
Oh, that's
Okay.
what
I'm
we
just
do.
asking.
That's what we do.
There's going to be the problem though, because there's going to be 4 or 5 different property owners. Because we have the lease with Metrolink, so that's ours to maintain. But that is part of the challenge with this too. Not only is she asking for the sidewalk, she wants the sidewalk to be cleared, obviously, in time for the kids to go to school.
And they have 24 hours under the sidewalk snow removal bylaw to remove the snow. So, anyway, it's not any different than any other sidewalk in the municipality, with the exception of Toronto Street that we clean.
All right, we have a motion in front of us. All in favor of the motion? Carried. The motion was that Councillor Hyatt has already responded, so we're just receiving this letter. I was paying attention, Jack.
No, I wasn't.
First item, report to committee. Report PWO 0118 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations. Repurchase of a used sweeper. Questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Malloy, first out of the gate.
I know we've talked about this, and I know that Ben said that there's some issues with response times and all those sorts of things, but it is an awful lot of money to our capital budget, and I'd support trying that, contracting it out for a year and see if it works for us, and if it doesn't, come back next year and reconsider it.
So are you making that motion? And then I'll go to, okay, and then I'll go to Councillor, or to Mayor O'Connor, then Councillor Ballinger, and then we'll go to Councillor Hyatt.
Okay, so me next?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mayor O'Connor, you're up next.
No problem. I just don't understand, the third paragraph where it says contracted sweeping services would cost approximately $100 an hour, which would only be the sweeper and the operator. In addition to this, we would supply a truck operator and a part-time laborer. To me, if you're contracting this out, that would be part of the contract. Why would we, I mean, when I see the region do theirs, I don't see that sort of thing following the region. Now, I could be totally,
That's exactly what happens. The region supplies the water truck, the truck to dump the material in, any laborers that have to hand sweep,
okay.
that's what they do.
So
That's what, the guys with the sweepers, they don't have trucks, they don't have water trucks. It's just the way it's sort of set up.
Okay. So we'll have the staffing time, but we don't have the capital cost. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Ballinger?
Yeah, my comment is, when I read it, was, you know what? There's not many miles on this sweeper, not many hours. We're saving $65,000. If we're having problems with sweeping or getting contracts and that, we're better off sometimes to own our own. $1.
Councillor Hyatt, and then over to Councillor Barton.
Yeah, just two quick questions. When I add up your numbers, they don't add to 48.5. Maybe I missed something. It's the bottom two. What about the wages, payroll, et cetera?
Wages and payroll won't be able, like, I still have the employees, so they'll be shifted in another spot, in another part of my operating budget. So you're not going to save the wages, or the benefits, or the overhead.
So the total cost for it would be 48.5 plus the 27.5 then, to do that service, if we did it in-house. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I don't think you really can't.
I'm just trying
count,
to
you really can't
compare
count the
apples to apples
27,000.
here.
You can't really count the 27.5 as a savings, because it's not a savings. I still have to pay that out.
So either way, you'd add that 27.5 either to the 48.5 or to the 37. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would switch it from sweeping to another area in my budget.
But would still be spent somewhere else?
It would be spent in my operating budget.
Okay.
Elsewhere, I still have the employee.
Yeah, I think when you came out the first time with the sweeper, we talked about maybe leasing it. Have you had a chance to look at that as opposed to buying it and capitalizing it over the 10 years?
We typically don't normally lease them. It's just
so when you've
you
got
pay more rent.
under equipment costs, when you got rental rates, what would a rental rate be? I'm not quite clear on what that means.
So for every hour that the sweeper operates, we charge a rate, $55, $60 an hour or whatever it is, to cover the fuel, repairs,
all
replacing
that stuff.
this.
So it's no different than
brushes.
a snowplow, for instance,
No,
right?
it's the same.
Same thing. All right, thanks.
Councillor Barton, and then back to Mayor Connor.
Yeah, I've got some questions. So it looks like we always need a certain number of employees to deal with winter maintenance. Is that correct, Ben? So we need 12 or like a certain number to plow the roads
Correct.
on the busiest day of the year.
On most days, yeah.
But like, so when, on the biggest snowfall of the year, we need a certain number of people to get the job done.
Yeah, but even if there's 2 inches of snow, you need everybody.
Okay. Okay. And then,
or even 1 inch of snow. They were all out this morning, I believe.
okay. And then do we run out of hours with our guys though? On a big snow event? What happens when they run out of, like, MTO hours?
Don't often run out of hours. We don't provide 24-hour service. That's not on our level of service. So they go out at 3:30 in the morning, and by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're pretty much done. Not very often a snowstorm will last that long,
Okay.
where it's that bad.
Okay. And it's the same deal for are the guys driving the pickup trucks who are the spotters, are they the same guys that drive the plows?
You mean the...
So they're the same people, so they're all
But
DRA licensed?
they rotate one, it's only one winter patrol guy
Okay,
a week, a day,
okay,
yeah.
alright. Okay, just a second. So with the additional, with the cleanup, that's outside of our typical operating conditions, where there's an accident where we send the sweeper out, do we charge the insurance company? The insurance company out the vehicle?
Depends on what's involved. If the bill is large, we do. It's very, we just send the bills to our insurance company and they try and get the money. Sometimes they do, sometimes it's impossible.
But our fire department typically can do that, right? So they charge back?
Yeah, and they have difficulty at times too.
Okay. Alright, I'm just trying to understand this a little bit with more detail. And then, so besides the winter, we have typically excess staff time to do jobs like sweeping.
No, we don't have any excess staff time. There's ditching, there's grass cutting. They're busy all the time. If they're at work, they're busy. There's lots of things to do.
But if the gentleman who does the sweeping, if we didn't have him sweeping, he'd be doing...
There'd be something else to do.
Okay.
Anything else, Councillor?
No.
Okay, Mayor O'Connor, you had another comment, and then I'll go back to Councillor Hyatt.
Dave asked some of my questions. Certainly the operator would be doing something else. If he isn't sweeping, he'll, you know, if we do contract this out, then there's lots of other things in the depot and the works department that that person can do. And I understand, and I thought I read it in here, that we only sweep for approximately 3 weeks.
I think it takes 3 to 4, no, it's longer than 3 weeks. Maybe 3 months. I think it's 3 months.
3 months, okay. So, yeah, it's not like that person isn't going to be sitting at the depot doing nothing because he isn't in the sweeper. He's going to be doing something else. Or she.
Anything else, Mayor? Okay, and Councillor Hyatt?
I know you come around in the fall in certain areas that, you know, you get those leaves that back up into the storm drains. Is there a way, if we were to purchase this, that we could add a fall sweep, if there's such a thing, where you whisk around and do the areas? Because as we know, people don't clean their own leaves, they sweep them on a road. So these all get bunged up in the storm drains. Is there a way we could run around in September or whatever and do another once over? I know they do specific areas, but is there a way?
I'd have to check because the sweepers never used to, the sweepers were never used to be made to pick up leaves like that.
It's
They
just
just
grit,
bung
right?
them up, but
Is it?
I'm not sure about.
But you know what I'm saying? You get
Yeah.
those piles up of and it just backs up the storm drains.
I guess I'll have to have the sweeper first.
Councillor Beach, welcome to the team.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea to do a contract for a year, see what the numbers look like, rather than, you know, spending the money on the sweeper, and that's my opinion.
Okay, Councillor Ballinger, and then we will go to the vote.
Yeah, and, just on the, I actually am in favor of this, and we've got a 2003 sweeper that's 15 years old. It's got 7,400 hours on it. We got a chance to get one that's got 1,600 hours on it and save $65,000. That's my last comment on it.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. I'm sorry, Councillor Barton, did you have something else?
Can somebody remind me what the motion was?
Put forth by Councillor Malloy that we will try this for a year and check the numbers and then come back to it in a year. Just
Can I?
absolutely. I'm just reminding. Yes.
So it's just, there's a little bit more to this too. I'm gonna have to have somebody check on them it's just, there's a lot of extra work involved in managing this, making sure that they don't just blow through and not come back. It's just, it's easier to manage your own guys because they know the routine, they're there, they do what they have to do, they know what they have to do, and you don't have to manage it. But if council wants us to manage it, then we'll manage it.
Okay, so the motion, we're not going to the motion yet. I'm sorry, Councillor Hyatt and then Mayor O'Connor.
Sorry, I should have brought this up the last time. Is there a way we could, if we were gonna buy this, to finance it over 5 years or something, rather than a big hit for $285? Donna, is there a way we can
It'd be a
break
question
it
for
out
Donna, I
into-
would assume.
I guess it's Donna's the wizard of accounts, so maybe I should be asking her that question.
Wizard.
Okay, so what happens,
Wizard F.
what would happen is, if we don't buy the sweeper in 2018, then, Ben and I, we would go back and we would look at his capital budget. We do have, Ben's capital budget pretty much leveled out every year. So with this change, we would have to go back and move things around. So savings of $285,000 for 2018.
It would be more of a
Spreading it out
reallocation.
over several years, right? That's my goal here. Like, if the thing has a 10-year lifespan, you should be going at least 5 years on the
So-
purchase price.
So with this, I mean, we planned on financing the full $285,000 in 2018. And the reason is because if you look at Ben's capital budget for the equipment, he pretty much spends at a similar level each year. So it is spread out without having to fund things over, 2 or 3 years.
Mayor O'Connor?
You're saying that you have to send, staff out, to supervise. I would hope that you, first of all, that the person, if we were to contract it out, is responsible.
You never know.
Well, I know that, but, we also heard through the budget process that you and Bill feel that you're really under, stress right now with the amount of work that you've got to do. So I see this perhaps as a way of taking one for a new technician. Could the technician not go out once a day and see what's going on?
Possibly, once we get them trained.
Well, I hope we're hiring a technician that has some experience.
It's hard to find somebody that's experienced both in capital and in operating, but that would be the ideal candidate for sure.
Councillor Barton, one more time.
Right, I'm just looking at these numbers again. So, item number 2 and 3, which is the cost for repairs, fuel, basically repairs, fuel, and our yearly capital costs, add up to be $48,000. To contract it out, which also includes labor for the unit, is less by $11,500.
Correct.
It appears to be a no-brainer, even if we keep just as many public works staff. Certainly for 1 year.
But you got the 27.5 you're not gonna get rid of. So,
Yeah, so, but
so
that would make it,
my budget is gonna have to increase. No,
no,
it'll go down 10.
it'll, yeah.
It'll go
So,
down 10.
so like the real cost, according to what I'm reading here, the real cost to have us operate a sweeper is $77,000. If we contract it out, it's $37,000. So we're saving $40,000.
That 27.5, it stays in my operating budget.
Well,
So
I
there's
know, but
no,
the
there's no savings.
But the person is doing other work, so
Correct.
we're getting extra benefits for it.
Yes, but it's
Okay.
still not a savings.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody else have anything, or should I go sweep the floor myself? All right, we have a motion on the floor for this sweeper. It hasn't come to you yet, sir. I know that. But I got my eye on you, so don't you worry about that. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to try the contract for a year, and then we'll revisit it. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Next item, report PWO 0218 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, new streetlight pedestal. Questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Malloy, and then Mayor O'Connor.
I'd like to make a motion to support the recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Mayor O'Connor, you have a comment?
I'm sorry if I've missed something with this, but why do we need metered poles? I can't remember.
It's just easier to keep track of, saves a lot of work in the end, and you're paying for the electricity that you use. And right now, it's just a flat rate, it's an estimate at best, that Hydro One gives you. If there's street lights out, although we do our best to fix them as soon as we can, but if there's street lights out, you still pay for them, you pay for the flat rate. Whereas if everything goes through the meter, you know exactly what you've used.
So, going forward then, I understand through your report that, you want this to be the standard, and I agree with that. Are we looking at, replacing on an ongoing basis any of the poles that we have throughout particularly the town?
Yeah, it's in our budget. I think there's 45 or 50,000 a year that every other year, I have a streetlight pole placement program where we started in Quaker Village, and we do that. But this won't apply to that. The meeting that we discussed this, council didn't want to use this new standard. I wanted to leave it the same.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barton, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I do. So, couple. First one is, what are other towns and cities doing? Are they putting in, 100 amp or 200 amp meters for their streetlights, or are they doing something through automation or doing the calculations through Hydro One?
It's only two ways to do it, flat rate or metered. It's the only way Hydro One will dole out the charges.
Okay, so if we had, there's lots of automation going on in the space. If there's an inductor, it will do the calculation for you. They won't take any electronic metering where they're through dimming on the streetlights or anything like that. All the automation that we talked about a year and a half ago, you and I, they won't take that data?
No, not yet. They may eventually, but not yet.
Okay. So, and this is only for new construction, correct?
That's what council's direction was the last time.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to support the recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Next item, report PWO 0418 of Colleen Bascom, Communications Officer, re-communications for the Brock Street culvert replacement. Mayor O'Connor.
I'm glad this meeting is going to take place, and I think we have an excellent person in Mike Wilson that will certainly help us get through this. I would like to just remind councillors that I think the same, we're going to use the same method as we did with the seniors, or with the parks plan. The Parks Master Plan, that no councillors attend this meeting, that it be solely a meeting to have input from the store owners and the residents in the downtown area. Then those questions and concerns will come back through a report from Mike and Ben. But I think that that's the only way that the residents and the store owners will probably feel comfortable in asking questions. So I ask none of us to attend,
So
not even to say welcome.
Are you moving that recommendation then, Mayor
Yes.
O'Connor? Okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments? All in favor of the recommendation, moving? Carried. Next item, report PWO 0518 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, re-Brock Street Culvert Communication.
Okay.
Mayor O'Connor.
Unless I'm reading this or I'm not understanding whatsoever, it says communication with residents, property owners, tenants, and business owners is anticipated to take a substantial amount of time preceding construction. I agree with that. it would be helpful if the communication is split between two staff members, Ben Kester, Public Works and Operations, and Mike Wilson. I would specifically correspond, and this was written by Ben, with the media. So, what it's saying on the top line is communications with residents, property owners, tenants, and business owners. And then it goes down to the media. So, I want to know...
Mike Wilson's gonna do the residents, property owners, tenants, and businesses, and I'm gonna do the media,
Only.
only.
So when we do a, press release, you're writing the press release?
Mike, between Mike and I, and Colleen will do it up, but between Mike and I, Mike's gonna put everything through me first. It's just that he'll know the history of everybody's questions. Say parking was an issue, so he'll know the answer to parking issues that every one of these people might have.
Okay, so it'll be Colleen that writes it?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, with our direction. We'll draft something up and then...
Okay. Okay. The other thing is if Mike Wilson is going to, be the person that is answering, telephone calls from property owners and residents and tenants and business owners, then Mike Wilson needs to have some sort of card that he's already got it.
I'll leave the cards with his cell phone number in your trays.
Use your mic.
It's, yeah. All right. Yeah, it's already, Mike's already has a business card, and, he's ready to go.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Councillor Barton?
On this, you know, we've talked at length about how busy 2018 is already gonna be for Public Works. Lots of projects, lots going on. We've hired Mike to be our liaison. We've got a communications manager. Ben has tons of projects going on. I just don't know why we would want to have this go through, like every media question to go through Ben and for him to be spending time on it. I think we've got other staff that can do that just as well and allow him to concentrate on the other projects. That's just my feelings on it.
Yeah, my thoughts are at this point, we're trying to get this thing to roll out first. It may end up coming back with a slightly modified plan, but at this point in time, this is what seems to make the most sense. I think once the tender gets out the door and the project starts to roll, there's gonna be an awful lot of work that's gonna take place between now and the time that the tender goes out. And it's gonna require both Ben and it's gonna require Mike. And you have to remember, Mike is new to this project, new to the township and how the township works. So we have the overlap initially, and then what we'll do is once the tender goes out, we'll reassess. But our key is, and what we've learned from speaking with the region as well, is the best effort that we can do is put our efforts in right now before that tender goes out. That's really when our public relations piece is gonna be critical, because we're gonna gather most of our information meeting with the public now and trying to make sure that everybody understands how things are going to work. And there was a press conference on Friday, which Ben and Mike and Colleen participated in, and hopefully we were able to answer a lot of questions at that time. And now we're rolling into the next step. It may come back slightly modified, but at this point, that's the focus.
Mike and I are the only ones that understand the technical aspects of this project. So, I am not sure who you meant by other staff, but the last thing I really need is another staff person, if it's other than Mike, phoning me for answers all the time. I might as well deal with them myself.
And I was thinking, Oh, sorry.
That's over to Mayor O'Connor, and then we'll come back to
Okay,
you,
no
Councillor. Turn that microphone on.
Just a quick question, are we still looking at a March start-up date? Like, we're halfway through, I can't believe it, but we're halfway through January.
I understand. I believe we'll start the pre-qualification part of it, probably by the first to the middle of March. The tender will be early summer.
So we'll get the tender out in early September, or early summer?
Early summer. That's
So
what-
that means that, you know, it might not start until late summer, right?
We can have start-up dates and stuff in the tender. It
I
shouldn't...
see this
it
not
shouldn't-
happening as quick as what we anticipated.
It's not gonna happen as quick.
I
But
think-
we're
I
pushing...
think we had that idea of,
We're pushing the consultant weekly to get
have we
things
got the
moving.
right consultant?
Technically, I think you got the right consultant. They just need to get their head wrapped around some things and get going.
Councillor Barton?
I'm concerned.
The consultant is qualified enough to do the work. The question now, in our discussions last week, is we may end up needing to push at a little bit of a higher level, but that Ben and I plan to meet and discuss the meeting that they had last week with the consultant, and then go from there.
This could, in my humble opinion, you could end up being another 4 or 5 months on this from what was anticipated. Because if you don't start at the right time, you're gonna come into the winter. So, that's, I'm just putting a
Some-
flag up.
Okay, we do not have a motion yet on this. Does someone like to make a motion? We've had lots of discussion, which is always entertaining, but we don't have a motion. Councillor Hyatt, would you care to make one over there?
I'll move the recommendation. Either of you are getting overwhelmed, as Ingrid suggested, maybe we need to upgrade the plan.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Is there any unfinished business? Under other business, just one quick comment from me. I got a call from Amanda this morning in regard to the tiles for the youth center. If somebody could just get back to her and let her know your thoughts. She just wanted to make sure council's all aware of that, so when you get a chance. Questions from the press? Yes, Roger Barley.
On the Brock Street culvert, Moya and I had a meeting with Ben and Mike and a few other people the other day about the culvert, and Mr. Kessler could not give us a specific start-up date, and is still not giving us a specific start-up date. I'd like to ask, when does he expect to have that start-up date? Because it seems to me it would help probably businesses in the area, who knows, to close up for a couple of weeks for vacation or whatever, if they knew what dates they were looking at.
We keep pushing the consultant for dates, and as soon as we know the date, we'll make it public.
Any other questions, Roger? Moya? Sam? Mr. Clark?
Thank you. Quick question, who is Mike Smith?
Mike Wilson?
Wilson, I'm sorry. Is he a township employee?
Contract employee to help me with the culvert.
Okay, thank you. In reference to the sweeper, each spring, Young Billy sends out a notification in the Uxbridge Times Journal. He breaks the township down into 6 sections, and it's done on a rotating basis, and I know damn well that every residence in their own little section wants theirs done first. And I understand from this morning's business here that this sweeping in the township of Uxbridge be contracted out. In reference to this contract, will this contract have to go through the tender process?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Then, Mr. Kester, and I'm very in this decision this morning, because now you have lost, LOSS, the opportunity to save $65,000 on the possible purchase of the new unit. I am so surprising, and Mr. Joe Ferguson hasn't wanted some money just to keep it there, but now, it's possibly it's going to be sold someplace else, and we've lost the $65,000. So I'm going to ask this question through Mr. Kester. If it's going to be contracted out, and will somebody be logging all of the costs for this of the township employees? I know, I've heard Ben say many, many times, look, I gotta have this employee, but if he's not doing power sweeping, he's doing something else. So is somebody going to be able to include all the costs of the contractor and all the costs of the administration cost? I know in my business career, I knew that it cost $150 to issue a check to somebody. So this contractor's going to want likely bi-weekly checks, monthly checks. So is somebody going to have the control of all the costs, including the township costs for this service? Because I extremely think we're wrong in this contracting service. So if somebody, I guess, Mr. Chairman, if you...
I can certainly give you my opinion on how it would work. Certainly there'll be an invoice cost for the sweeper itself. It will be X number of dollars for every day it's out, in so much as the taxpayer cost or the township cost for the employees, that's going to be a set figure as well, right? So you'd have to break that down. If, let's say, it's Billy for the sake of an argument, well, you'd have to figure out what Billy makes and how it's going to be. Do I see that breakdown coming for this? No, I don't. I can see the breakdown coming for the cost of the sweeper. Now, that's just me, that's just my opinion. I may be wrong or right, Donna. Is that a safe assumption on my part?
Well, no. Yeah, so currently we do not break out Billy or Ben's time and allocate it to the functions that they're working on. It's just the actual workers whose time is allocated.
Really? So I understand, then how is the Township of Uxbridge Council people going to make a decision likely in December of 2018, as to whether this Tom, Dick, and Harry contractor should be awarded another one, or whether you want to go through it for the purchase? If you're not going to take the real costs, total costs, in this power sweeping service, how you got to keep track of it, because then how are you going to know what the costs were for the power sweeper, for the contractor and everything related, versus now the possibility that you have to buy a new one? And like I heard Mr. Kester say, and I think Mayor O'Connor asked him about how reliable are these people going to be. I'm not too sure you can really find out how reliable people are going to be. So I'd ask somebody to respond.
Mayor O'Connor?
First of all, we have a line in Ben's budget that says sweeping. So that will continue. What will be added to that line, instead of using our equipment, will be the contracts, the contract person's name. So at the end of the year, we'll know how much sweeping has cost, okay? And we will be able to compare it to this year, where we swept ourselves, and we'll see that price for next year, and we'll be able to say, okay, it wasn't a good idea, or perhaps it was a good idea. But we will have it on a line, and you'll be able to compare the two.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. So I could ask the treasurer. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend any of these budget meetings. For the year 2017, do you know what the township's sweeping costs were? Please? I can't hear you?
Sorry, I believe it's in Ben's report on what his costs were.
Not entirely. We'll get that for you.
It's not entirely?
We can
Well, I
actually
thought-
determine that, though. We can determine what we spend on all of those costs, because the payroll is actually, we know what people are spending their time on. So we can go back through the payroll, Donna should be able to, or through our treasury department, through the payroll administrator. We'll know exactly how much staff time was actually charged to street sweeping. We also know what the equipment charges were and the overhead for that function. We have that level of detail. Can we pull it up right now? No, but I think if Donna was to sit down with our person who does our payroll, they should be able to see what payroll has been charged back to the function.
Thank you. Like, am I allowed to have a request for somebody to come back with or request for my answer for the power sweeping cost for 20, am I allowed to have that, or do I have to go? Okay.
You'll have that
Okay.
in your 2018, and we get, is it quarterly reports or 6-month reports of where we are in the budget to any item. So it will be an ongoing thing that when Donna does makes those presentations to council, you'll be able to see where we are.
See, like that,
Yeah.
see, this,
Well, just a minute, apparently I wasn't right, so. Oh, okay.
Okay, so Ben, the 27,500 here that you state for payroll burden and benefits, you're saying that was in your budget, it wasn't actually your 2017 actual?
I think it was the actual. But the part that's not included in this report is the water truck, the truck to pick up the debris and all that kind of stuff, as long as we're clear on that.
But Ben, you would have that cost whether you contracted out or you did it in-house. So that's why we're not looking at that?
But I believe Mr. Clark is asking for the total figure. And that, if he wants the total figure, we'll get him the total figure, but I don't have it in front of me.
But what's important in all of this exercise is that you have to remember there are going to be certain costs, such as the water truck, the other truck, those are going to be assigned to this project no matter what. So when we contract out the sweeping, we're going to have a cost for the sweeper, and we're still going to have to provide those support services, right? So we'll be able to tell you 2017's cost, doing it ourselves, and then 2018, when we're finished 2018, we should be able to report on the cost with the contracted out sweeper, plus our own internal cost to support that contracted out service.
okay. One last request. As I said, I'm extremely disappointed in the decision. And so, could I ask that figure of 2017, the actual hard cost, be made known for what it cost before, to maybe possibly rethink this whole decision on this sweeper? That's my last question.
Every decision can be reversed by a motion of, what's it called? Reconsideration. So it could be, we'd have to come back and do that, but yeah, every decision that we do, we can revisit.
Is it too much to have that dollar amount available for next week's meeting?
We don't meet next week, we don't meet
Oh.
until the 29th.
Okay, well, the
But you and
29th
Dave
then.
can hang out here.
29th then.
That's up to staff if they could provide that number. Would that be reasonable, Donna? Yeah, we can have that number for you for the 29th meeting, which is a night meeting.
He's asking a different question
I'm sorry, is that not what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking, 'cause is the number, there's two questions here, I
Oh.
guess. Could the number be available by the 29th?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how many of the council members know what that number is, and I don't understand how you can make that decision without knowing what that number is versus what was proposed here by Mr. Kester. I know I've gone too long.
I'm sure Councillor Barton has a spreadsheet.
I do actually.
Microphone.
I'm looking, am I okay to speak or do you want to?
But my thing is, my point is, we don't know. How are you gonna compare whether it's a good thing or not, because we haven't tendered it out? So you have no idea what it is, and I think that's what council is trying to say. We don't know whether this would be cost savings for the municipality, or it won't be cost savings for a municipality. What I see it doing, personally, is freeing up a person for 3 months, okay, and giving us an opportunity to look at contracting, which we have been urged by many residents to look at contracting versus buying out, spending capital on something that sits for 9 months of the year. So that's why I'm supporting it, is that I want to see whether in fact this is going to cost us money or whether we're going to save money. Because once you own something, we all know what happens. Every year, the depreciation goes down, down, and down.
And if I can just jump in as well, I guess I can. I'm sure Ben is going to come back at the end of next year and say, here's what it is. Maybe come with another report saying we should buy one because these are the numbers. So I doubt that this is the last we've heard of this, Brock.
Okay, one more time. Can we get a number by January the 29th to present to everybody here to see if the decision which was made moments ago be reversed? Because when we get the number, then everybody wants to have a look at it and then say, holy smokes.
Donna, is that possible?
Because Mr. Kester made a very good comment here. How reliable are these guys going to be? Because you're going to put it to tender. I know you say you don't have to have the lowest or only contractor, but how much indirect labor is Mr. Kester and Mr. Reinert going to have to put up with complaints from taxpayers about this service that's being provided? There's so many unknown things here that I don't think we have analyzed properly to get this decision.
I can certainly ask Ben and Donna to come back with a number for us before the 29th meeting. All right? So at that time, that's when we would have to make a motion for reconsideration. We won't make that motion yet. We will take a look. We will get these numbers. They will get them together 2 weeks to pull it together, and we'll go from there. Is fair?
Fair. And I ask the press that I not be quoted here this morning. Thank you.
All right. All right, we are... Am I wrong? All right, I will close this meeting of Public Works and Operations and pass it over to Councillor Hyatt for Planning and Economic Development. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. I'll call to order Planning and Economic Development Committee. Correspondence 240 from... I guess we could take 5 minutes, sure. Did you go to the press, by the way? You did? Okay, sorry.
Okay, can we start planning, please?
Certainly can. Everybody back? Okay, we have correspondence 240, Town of Whitby versus pollinator, regarding pollinator habitat. Councillor Malloy?
I'd make a motion to receive 240 and 241.
Motion to receive. Any questions on either of those?
I made a motion to receive both 240 and 241.
Questions? All in favor to receive? Thank you. Carried. Reports to committee. DS 118, Liz Howson. This is regarding 23 Anderson, Lot 1. Councillor Malloy?
I just had a question. I remember a number of years ago we had a lot of people, we were talking about these contractor yards over there, and that was a big issue a number of years ago. Has that gone away? Because that was a big concern of most of the businesses around there, as I recall, and I don't know if anybody can answer that. Mayor O'Connor? Mayor O'Connor?
I think what happened is, in this particular one, because I was thinking the same thing, but it's on the south side, and the storage and that sort of stuff could not be seen from Highway 47 because of the berm. But I don't know, one of my questions was how much storage is going to be outside. So maybe...
Ingrid, do you have any info on this? No? You want to come on up, Amelia, please?
I'm not sure if she'll know, but you can ask.
We have a couple of questions about, DS 118, Liz's report on 23 Anderson. Anyone answer your question? Ask your question?
Is Brian here? Brian is here,
Okay.
He may actually know about
The more the merrier. Is anybody else here we could bring in? Where's Liz? Well, from my memory, before Brian gets here, there were some issues with surrounding residents because of noise and,
But this back,
unsightliness, I guess, of stuff lying out in the yard.
areas, the ones that were backed onto concession two.
Concession
Right.
two.
Those are the only ones where there was issues around storage.
So I think that's why these holes were put in place, so that you weren't polluting, if I can use that word, the environment of these people.
That's
So,
a quick
yeah,
question.
go
Was
ahead.
there an agreement with the residents?
for that, for those that are
predates me.
backing.
I'm not sure where it was, but I thought there was an agreement with the residents with regards to the industrial park. Maybe Brian knows. I don't know.
Well, I think a hold was put on those units for that reason. Ingrid, I don't know. It was predates me, but that's my memory of it. You're new too, right? Maybe we'll just wait.
Okay, Brian's on the phone apparently, so let's, can we go to the next one?
Certainly. DS 218. This is a C of A application for 56 Young Street. Everybody know where this is?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions? Can I get a motion? Councillor Ballinger? To move the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll keep going. Any unfinished business for planning? Anything on the, addendum? Yeah? No? Good. We're clear there. Other business, we have the DEAC Environmental Awards. If anybody has any nominations, my suggestion would be to post this on the website, the town page, and social media, and, come on up, Brian, we're waiting for you. We'll just handle this DEAC award thing first. Can I get a motion? Deb?
Oh, just a minute.
Just
We're,
DEAC,
we're
my
dealing with-
suggestion, we need a motion to put this on the website, the town page, and, social media.
I'll give you that if you want.
Okay, anybody wanna appoint anyone else in the interim? Or suggest, no? Okay. Can I get a motion? Dave's made the
I'll
motion,
give it.
all in favor? Carried, thank you. Brian, welcome up. We have a question on DS 118. This is Liz's report on 23 Anderson. Was it your question, Councillor Moy?
I guess mostly my question is, I know she's got a number of percentages here, 35% also stuff, but my question was, I remember a lot of fighting about this, I don't remember what company was going in there, but do we have an agreement of any kind with the local residents? Do we have, is there an understanding of what we will and will not do there? It just seems to me there was some understanding when that industrial park went in of what would be permitted and what wouldn't.
No.
And contractors' yards were the hot topic then, I remember, and
Correct, at that time, but there's no agreement with, the residents. They have to, the applicants would have to go through a development agreement with the township, but nothing with the neighboring residents.
So I just remember a number of people sitting in a room saying, you promised this, you promised that, you promised this, that's all, and maybe, if there's no agreement, that's fine. Okay.
There's nothing.
That's my question.
Anybody else have any questions for Brian? No? Can I get a motion on this, please? No. You got a question?
No,
Sorry.
I don't have a question.
You're waving your arm there, I thought.
Are you
Sorry,
s-
Brian, I
are
could've phoned you.
making a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
You're making a motion? Okay.
To support,
Support the
You have to
recommendation?
use your mic.
Motion from Councillor Beach. Go ahead.
I'd like to support Liz's recommendation.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Brian, good to see you. Thanks, Amelia. It was nice of you to come visit us. Any other business for planning? There being none, I will adjourn and pass it to Mayor O'Connor for admin.
Mayor O'Connor, it seems to me, I think that there's on the corners, there's like a 20-meter distance they have now, and I think that's not consistent with what ours is, and maybe we should try that at some point in time. Maybe we don't have time for it this year, but we should kind of get it together for both regional and, I think we're if they could, I think we should be consistent, because I can see people saying, I thought it was a regional road, I didn't know, who knows, but it should be consistent maybe. Mayor O'Connor, I'd support their letter. They have every right to do that, and I agree. It should go through a public process. I'd like to make a motion to support that one as well, Mayor O'Connor. Do you want a motion? Sure, I'll make that motion, Mayor O'Connor.
I have a couple of concerns with this. I think this has come up in the past, and I think something like this, the issue becomes it's unenforceable. How are you going to put a sign up and prevent people from coming in, if they're coming in to pay their taxes, if they're going into the library, or if they're going into a dance at the community hall? I don't see the point in creating a bylaw and creating a policy that we can't enforce. If I work Cologne in next week, or 2 weeks in council, who's going to tell me to leave?
I'm gonna tell you, you really stink. Well, I'm gonna tell you.
First of all, I always wear cologne, and it's but the problem becomes if you read through this, what ends up happening is you can't have soap. It's going to smell like a barnyard. So I think we're better to not do it. I wouldn't support this.
Sorry, when you look on page 348 of your agenda, and oh, sorry, 351, okay, sorry, it's not there either. It's on page 355. It lists all those things. Certainly there isn't going to be diapers in here, at least I hope not. We're getting up there. Yeah. But I have some concerns about this as well. And you know what? I understand and I sympathize with those people that have allergies. So, I mean, my son is asthmatic. I understand all that. But what I don't understand is, I don't know whether you can, I guess you can buy deodorant without any any smell. But people are being asked now to change their whole way of health hygiene, okay, for people that have allergies or have reactions. And I guess that this is another case, Carolyn, where I personally feel the pendulum has gone from one extreme to another extreme. There was kids in school that had allergies to peanuts. When I went to school, they said, you know, I can't. One girl sat right beside me. She knew she had the allergy. We all knew she had the allergy, but we weren't forbidden to not eat peanuts in school or to bring peanut butter, which kids now today, you know, again, the pendulum has swung from one extreme to the other. Now, that's not your issue.
Yeah.
But, you know, industrial cleaners, like, I don't know where is this going to stop?
4.0 lists all the products that may contain scents. Some scents affect different people. We have one staff member that we can't use a particular product till after she's gone because it affects her breathing. So it's not that we're not using it, we're just not using it when she's around. It has a chance to dissipate. A lot of hairsprays and deodorants and colognes and aftershaves and fragrances and perfumes, they're listed here because they're all chemical. A lot of them are chemically formulated. So the scent that you're, say you think it's a lavender scent, it's not necessarily a true 100% pure lavender scent. A lot of them are chemically made in a lab, and that affects people's breathing. Now, some things affect me and some things don't, because I do have certain scent allergies, and I have been made accommodations. So if somebody comes in and they are wearing a cologne or a perfume that affects me, then somebody else looks after them and I go somewhere else. That's not always the case that a person can do that. And it's reducing, it's not eliminating. We're not asking you to not wear deodorant. We're asking you, and I think when you look at item 7.4, item number 3, sometimes it's hard to notice your own scent, so you need to think of that 2-foot rule. Okay, if you can be smelled 2 feet away, then it's too strong.
Yeah, but that can do serious.
Yes, and we had that with one in the past with a within a department. That was an issue, and it was actually hard to deal with. I'm not saying that we're not going to be able to eliminate all the scents. That's physically impossible and not cost effective, and definitely would become smelling like a barn. Actually, my barn would smell better, to be honest. What we are saying is to reduce that. When I looked at Oshawa, and I talked to the City of Oshawa via email, the head of the Human Resources Department there, he has a poster that they put in the facilities currently in Oshawa. The only facility that is scent reduced is City Hall. None of the other facilities are. What we're saying is that not every facility in the township has to be scent reduced as well. It's just if the facility, somebody working in that facility has requested it, then it would go to senior management to be decided if that facility should be scent reduced. There's only 2 that have raised concerns within the township. Here at Town Hall and the pool, because there are a couple of us that have scent allergies. But they just post a sign at the front, and it does say scent reduced. It doesn't say scent eliminated, scent free. Because like I said, you can't do that. He also sends out a reminder every 6 months to staff reminder, it is a scent-reduced facility, blah, 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 blah. And any information or meetings that are set up from the region in their policy, everything has a little blurb on the bottom. All the facilities within the Durham region are scent-reduced. And when you're being sent information for a meeting, it's right on the email. This is a scent-reduced facility. Please refrain from wearing cologne and the policy that I wrote is based on the Center for Health and Safety, the Canadian Centre of Health and Occupational Health and Safety. So it's based on their recommendations and that in setting up a policy. So I didn't pull it out of my hat.
Okay, so, and I know that there are departments in the region that certainly have it on the door because it's the receptionist that has an allergy. But how do you stop somebody from coming in to pay their taxes? I mean, and there's a lot of women that wear very strong cologne or perfume. How do you stop them from coming to the counter to pay their taxes? Like, that's my concern, is where do you draw the line on this?
And a lot of that's education, but I don't think we can stop, we don't want them to stop coming in and paying their taxes, quite frankly. They pay they support all of our functions. If that person is allergic to them, have somebody else serve them and the person move away. So we can do that. We can't do, one of the questions that I did have asked by a councillor was heavy smokers. There's nothing we can do about them. They're going to reek of smoke. It doesn't matter what you do. They're going to reek of smoke. If it is really bad, and they're going to be there for a meeting or a long period of time, what other places do is they ask them to wash it off, the perfume.
But it's in their clothes.
A lot of times it is, unfortunately.
So I'm not going to ask them to strip. Although
No.
that might be
That might be
very
interesting, or that
entertaining,
might be,
but
yeah. Yeah. That comes under the harassment policy.
Anyway, I just want to, I'll end up by just saying that, you know what, if we want to, and we have to put it in here, and we have to put it in the pool, but I don't know, I do not support, respectfully, it going into places that are being rented. When a person rents a hall, we should not be able to dictate who can enter the hall and who can't enter the hall.
I agree, and it, like I said, that would be a facility that would have to go to senior management, and I can't see senior management saying that a renter is going to not allow perfume or scented products. It's not that they're putting off perfume bombs and that.
Okay, thank you. You wanted a question? Councillor Hyatt, then Councillor Malloy.
Yeah, thank you. Through you to Carolyn. So this is designed to protect our employees, correct?
It is.
So does the employee have to self-identify as an ES person?
To their supervisor, yes.
They do.
Yeah.
So everyone in that general area should be aware that this person has
Yeah.
a sensitivity
Yeah.
issue, right?
Yeah.
So it's not designed to deal with, people coming into council and sitting in the back and then somebody sitting next to them and reeking of high karate or something. It's not designed for that.
Or Axe.
So this is for our employees only?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Councillor Malloy.
Like everything we do, you've got to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and I wonder where it is. I'm very curious why smoking wouldn't count. And if smoking doesn't count, how about alcohol? And then after we do that, what about the smell of marijuana that'll be legal in July? It's just, where do you go with this? And why would you determine, or whoever, not you, I should say you, why would someone determine that those are okay, but deodorant isn't? I don't understand.
Deodorant may contain scent. It's not, most deodorants
Well, we know smoking
to get in their clothes and, their hair, their whole being. And it falls underneath, addiction, same with alcohol, marijuana, I would think would come under the addictions, and that being another disability. So it's really a weighing of, who's going to be, which disability is going to have the greatest impact, on the worker.
Well, clearly marijuana isn't addictive. I mean, the federal government will tell you that.
That's a whole
Okay,
other,
so that,
that's
okay,
a
then I'll
whole
go
other
on the
thing.
next step. The next point is, so somebody walks into the, what authority do you have to tell somebody to get out? Somebody comes in here to do a presentation, can you say to them, I
Well-
just smelt that person coming through the door, tell them to get out?
You would be very respectful and ask them if they could wipe off some of their, perfume. Usually, most times, the alcohol takes a lot of the scent away, and it unless they've bathed in it. Hopefully, if you've got somebody coming in to present, you've sent them an email saying that this is a scent-reduced environment. Please respect the fact that we have employees that have sensitivity.
But then you have the authority to kick them out of a public building. Well, do you or don't you? Is that what the policy says? I mean, if someone comes in and they won't leave, you can tell them to get out of the building. Is that what it says?
I don't know. You would swap employees, yeah. You'd have to have a different employee in there. Yeah. And you know what? Most people that are presenting to employees understand they're not coming in with any sense, because they're not just presenting to this department or this municipality, or business. They're doing multiple businesses, and this is
But that's a
becoming
perfect
pretty
world, though,
standard.
right? That's a perfect world. There's still people that will
Yeah,
abuse it.
there's still people that will, and that hopefully we don't encounter them.
So that's my question. Do you have the authority to tell them to get out of the building?
We always have the authority to tell anybody to get
Because
out
of
of the
scent?
building.
Because
But
of
I don't
scent?
know if we would do that necessarily for scent.
I'm just
We would
asking if-
swap an employee.
But do we have the ability is my question.
We can
Yours.
find out.
Because of scent?
Oh, well, Debbie says they're not applying with our policy, but our policy for employees only, she said,
If it affects an employee,
if it affects an employee.
yeah. So if they were coming in and, they were presenting and it was a group of employees and they were doused in scent, say they really are clueless, and that, we would take out that employee that has the scent allergies. But more often than not, a lot of people would be affected if somebody was that covered in scent.
Okay.
It lacks professionalism on the part of the presenter.
I can say that I was at the region, meeting, and was actually asked to leave the planning department because I had perfume on. I was asked to wait in the hall, and they would come and get me when the time came, because the person who worked at the counter had a very serious scent allergy. So they did a good thing. They asked if I wouldn't mind just waiting somewhere else, and they would bring me through rather than have me sit in the waiting room. The second thing is, if we're worried about, somebody showing up at council, I think it's very proactive for us to put signage up and on our declaration forms where we're promoting, or asking them to fill them out. Just even some small little icon that says, we work in a scent-free environment. That can also be put on our township page. There's a number of things we can do that are just sort of subtle reminders. It's not about ambushing them when they come in, but it's really about trying to get the message out that we would just ask that you would consider that we work in a scent-free environment. That's, I think, where this is going. Rather than looking at dropping the hammer on somebody, it's really about trying to educate people and say, and it is becoming more and more common that we are starting to see more and more workplaces that are moving in this direction.
Okay, Councillor, Ryan, and then Councillor Barton.
It comes back to what I had said earlier, it's unenforceable, and I have a real problem with somebody telling me I can and cannot wear cologne to come here or go to work or go wherever. I have a real issue with that, in the fact that this is a public building, and if I'm coming in to do my job, and granted, the two people who sit closest to me, if I was cognizant of that, you know, they had an allergy, we would have that discussion. But at the end of the day, if somebody's coming in and it's not enforceable and you're going to put a sign up, a lot of people will disregard it. You know, if I've been here 3.5 years, I can't mention anybody's cologne, it doesn't affect me, but I've never had somebody have that much on. So why are we bothering to go through this exercise if we can't enforce it anyways? Because you're saying you're going to ask people to swab down. That's not going to happen, right? If I have cologne on next, or week, Monday, when I come back in, is somebody going to say, Fred, you need to swab down, right? I don't think that's going to happen. So I think that rather than go through this whole exercise when nothing's going to change, I don't know why we're doing it and spending our time on it. It's my 2 cents. That'll be cool, man. I'll have a lot of cologne on after that.
So, here's another example. And this isn't the situation in my family, but say my daughter was taking swimming lessons at the pool, and her instructor bathed in perfume, or was taking a first aid class. And she went in and she struggled to breathe and needed her inhalers and was struggling to get through because of her instructor was wearing perfume or cologne. I believe that the child's rights would trump, of being able to breathe, would be more important, I won't use the word trump, would be more important than the rights of the person to wear a scent.
Yes.
That would be my take on it. And obviously you wouldn't kick the person at the first time, but you would then gently say, just so you know, this is a scent-free facility, and you are causing harm to one of your students. And we're not going to fix it the first day we put signs up, but I think moving forward, we certainly don't want people to struggle with their health because of what we have, what we're wearing on ourselves, in terms of whether it's deodorant or cologne. And I don't think this is a stick approach, it's a gentle reminder. I agree with the policy, but I would want the very minimal amount of enforcement to make sure that we're not overreaching.
Yeah.
But certainly if something that I'm doing is affecting someone's health, tell me and I'll change it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So my last question is, and I'll use paint as an example. So somebody was coming into the pool,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody was coming into the municipal office and we needed painting done. Do we now look at asking that person that has allergies not to come into work for a week while we paint, or do we or do we absorb the cost of having somebody come in at night, which might be double the cost of having somebody work 9 to 5?
You'd have to notify the staff person that it could affect. The possibility of maybe moving them to a different facility or a different area while that is occurring and working from that spot, that's something that should be looked at first before looking at, do we do a different time-wise, or do we bring in HEPA filters while it's happening so that the chemicals aren't going off, or do we look at the type of paint, because now there's paints that actually give off less fumes.
Yeah,
So
but
there's,
it still gives off fumes, believe me.
yeah, I know.
So I guess that's all the questions. I mean, we've opened a Pandora's box, or not us, but this whole thing, because how do you accommodate everybody that might have an allergy? And what's the effects of that? I mean, for instance, how would you do your job as the administrator of the pool by not being there? You wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So you would have to go home for 2 or 3 days or a week while the smell, I'm just using you as an
Yeah.
example, okay?
Yeah.
While the smell of the paint leaves the building.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is a huge cost to this too, that I think council needs to be aware of, because it's the same with the flooring in here. I mean, I smelt that as soon as I came in. I didn't know what I was smelling, but, they tell me it was the floor. I don't, like, I just think that there's a lot of other unanswered questions of how you deal with this.
And I think it has to be, those things have to be dealt on a case-by-case basis.
No, it's
'Cause
fair. That's fair.
we don't know, if we did all the what-ifs, that my report would look like our agenda, I think, from today.
Yeah.
Because there are so many. And not everything's gonna affect each person, because it is very individual. What affects me may not affect somebody else. And that, and it's only happened a couple of times where somebody's come in with perfume. They're not, people don't usually wear perfume into the pool, because they're going in the water and they can't have glass
What about
objects.
the smell of chlorine? What happens when somebody can't take that? 'Cause that's all chemical.
Yeah,
They don't
usually
go to
not
the
the
pool.
they don't go to the pool.
Hmm.
Or if they're allergic to chlorine, some people have their skin, they can't swim in a chlorinated pool. And they don't go to pools.
But
It's not just us.
Yeah. So they wouldn't be able to see their son or daughter in a swim meet, for instance, if they had that allergy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I just, you know, when you say chlorine, that just struck my eye. The last two pools I've been in, chlorine bothers my eye. They've been salt water. I had no problem whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually concerns with salt water, so, regarding pumps and stuff.
Hmm?
There's concerns regarding chlorine. It's still a chlorinated pool, 'cause the salt makes the chlorine, but it's at a different level.
Councillor Malloy, and then we'll wrap this
Yeah,
up.
my only concern is, as usual, is we make rules and, we can't enforce them. That's always an issue. And I understand people that have those allergies. I mean, they deserve the respect of the other people. But you say, let's not get into the what-ifs, but I mean, there are so many what-ifs. And that's always what authority does the local government or whoever's making the rule have, and how far can they go? And that's always my concern, is how far can you take things. Imagine if someone came in with a service dog and someone was allergic to the smell of a dog. Then what do you do? I'm not gonna get into all those little issues, but my concern is how far the enforcement can go, if in fact it can even be enforced. That's all. That's my concern. I do respect the people that have allergies, you know, my
My
wife
only
does
other,
lots of
sorry, Councillor Malloy, my only other concern with what you're saying is, under the Health and Safety Act, Section 25H, you must do everything reasonable for the health and safety of the worker. And, so if the health of a worker is affected, and under human rights, environmental sensitivities are considered a disability, and we have to make accommodation.
But then they throw in the word reasonable.
And what is reasonable for a government level is high. It's very high.
Okay, we've beat this one to death.
Mhm.
Okay, support. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
But you know what? We're being governed to death. You know what? I don't know what, well, I won't even get into it. Report BL 0118, proposed traffic bylaw amendments to increase total number of overnight permits in Centennial Park. I think it's not a big increase, and, if we can, get people off the streets to get them cleaned. Councillor, Bryan, support the recommendation, thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Report CL 0118 of Catalina, regarding the closure and convey part of Center, Street. This is a really odd one to me, because we've got, at one point, we must have had 3 center streets, because Owen Road was center, then we still have center, and now we've got this. So, we can convey it, I mean, it's doing us no good, but then, anybody that wants to purchase, does it go up for purchase or sale through a public process then?
In this case, especially when it comes to road allowances, we do have the ability to convey to the adjoining property owner, but since the original, disposition bylaw, council also added a clause, that we are able to sell to a particular person aside from road allowances, and that actually came about because of Lucy Mott. So we do have that provision in there, but when it's, in particular, when it's road allowance, we can offer to the adjoining property owner or owners. In this case, there's just one.
Okay, so what, we'll get some money out of this?
There's no provision in the report right now that we would charge this individual, 'cause I can only assume, as it predates me, I think I was only in grade 4 at the time.
Well, why don't you know?
That it, I'm assuming that the intention was, it was to be conveyed to the adjacent property owner, but if council directs that we seek a, an appraisal on it and charge the property owner, then I can do that. I unfortunately couldn't find anybody.
You know what, it probably costs more for a little piece of land for that than what we'd ever get for the land, so, I mean, we're looking at 66 feet by something. So, and certainly we want Harima straightened out. It's more important that we get that straightened out than we, try and get a little bit of money. And what time you pay for appraisal, you won't have any money. Councillor Malloy.
Just a quick question. I know we've had questions regarding road allowances many times, and we've always said, no, our policy is not to sell road allowances.
But you know where this one is?
Yeah, I did see it on the map. Well, it was hard to see on the map, actually, but I did see it. But I'm just saying, either we have a policy or we don't. Do we have a policy that we don't sell road allowances, or do we not? I'm just saying, we've had lots of requests to buy road allowances off of us, and I just don't want to get into
But I
precedent.
think those requests are because in the future, they could become a road.
Mhm.
This can't become a road.
I understand.
So, through you, Madam Chair, just, and I believe Catalina does speak to that, the fact that we do try now to retain all our road allowances. The idea being that, number one, they may be used for a road in the future, or number two, they may be used for trails or, biking paths or horse trails or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, looking long-term, that someone would be able to get from point A to point B on that road allowance. In this particular case, they're going nowhere but into somebody's front yard, so that's why we're recommending that it be disposed of. It would be very difficult for us not to do this, given the nature of the situation, in that it actually crosses their driveway and is completely surrounded by private property. So that's why we're recommending. Generally, you are absolutely right, Councilor Malloy, we do not recommend that we sell road allowances.
Is it a policy, though, or is it just, we do it issue by issue?
We do have a policy.
It is policy?
Yes.
Okay.
More so in the rural areas versus the urban areas, but
Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, there's a public meeting coming up in a couple of weeks regarding the adjacent property. Would it not be better to put this off until that has been settled one way or the other?
One
Like
shouldn't
if
have
they
a
don't
bearing
need
of
this
the
property, in other words, why would we
No,
bother conveying it to them?
this is, one thing has absolutely nothing to do with the other. This is actually across the road, so this is on the south side of Brock Street. The public meeting that we will be dealing with is actually on the north side of Brock Street.
That's not according to my map here, so.
And this particular property is completely surrounded by, she does have, she's got it on the wrong spot. It's on the south, or the south side.
It is?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that changes things completely, so. All right, I'll negate my question then. So this blue box should be going south.
If you look on the ortho photography,
Yeah.
it actually depicts where it is located, which is proper. This one on the map she has on, that doesn't have the ortho on it, is in the wrong spot.
Well, actually, the ortho is on the north side, if you look at the picture. That little purple box. You see where I am, right here?
So here's Nell Kid. That's the the property right here, and there's the center.
So it's the same
You
on
know
both?
what, it's, you know where George Kidd lives?
Yeah?
You know where the golf course goes? Okay,
That's
the
the
road,
property.
that's it.
So it's completely surrounded by the kids' parcel. If you look at the ortho,
Yeah,
the
but it's
ortho
al-
photography,
It's also on the north side.
no, it's
right?
not.
No.
It's,
on
if
the
you
south
look
side.
up to the right-hand side, you'll see Nell Kidd Lane.
Here,
Hang on a second.
here's Nell Kidd Lane, here. Okay, Nell Kidd Lane goes up. This is high school property right here, and that's there. Ooh. That's the other side of the road. I have no idea what the box is, but it's this piece right there. See, there's Nell Kidd, that should be there, okay?
So this
Yeah.
box
This
doesn't
should
mean
be over here.
This box doesn't mean anything. So this is not.
Okay,
All right, does everybody understand where this is?
I guess so.
Yes.
So as long as it's on the south side, yeah.
Okay, have a motion then, please? Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Report 03 of Catalina's regarding the amendment to the bylaw to
Fire
regulate
rate for-
the erection of, oh, sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Yeah,
Away from here.
this is a report from Laura regarding, board member resignations.
Let's move the recommendation.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. The next one is Catalina's, regarding, to regulate the erection, location, class, and types of signs and advertising devices in the township of Uxbridge and the region of Durham. And I think that's exactly what we've asked, that we look at our signage bylaw, with the regions and see how, you know, if we can get them totally together, or as close as possible. Any questions on that, Counselor, or who are you? You're the clerk. You wouldn't want to be.
Just if you could look at the recommendation, there is, the recommendation's incorrect on the report, so it should be that the bylaw, the sign bylaw be amended to remove that section instead of dealing with the procedural bylaw.
Okay.
Say that again.
That's a very
Yep.
good question. So what's left then? So we don't have, we still have a heritage sign district, is that correct?
Right?
But, okay, just that,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Okay? All,
Just a
oh,
question.
Counselor Hyatt?
Was there a heritage, conservation district implied originally? Or why would they even state that? I don't get it.
I think it was just incorrect wording was used, that's all.
So it should have said heritage sign district.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Okay? I have a motion?
Move the
Made.
recommendation.
Thank you.
Will someone else
All-
want us to do it? Yeah,
All
we'll do
those in favor? Carried. We also have one on our, addendum, report, 02 of Andre regarding the services proposed amendments to the snow removal bylaw. Questions to that? Counselor Hyatt? Come on up, Andre.
Come on up, Andre, I got a question for you. Okay, I understand the impetus of what you're trying to do here. How do we prevent people from relocating snow on the highway itself? I'm not quite sure what that means.
So when the windrow is left by the plows,
Right.
it's technically on the highway already. So by moving it, the current provision says not putting anything onto the highway. If it's currently on the highway and you're pushing it further onto the highway or relocating it, this is what this amendment's doing, is creating an offense for that. So essentially, don't push that rift out into the middle of the road.
But if this is already on township or regional property, how do we, they shouldn't be there anyway. All I'm saying is if there's a sidewalk there, for instance, and the plows come and it's sprayed, snow and sand and everything else back onto the sidewalk and they clear it off, are we telling them there that they can't do that now? Because
This-
you're pushing it back onto a road allowance or something?
This is more dealing with at the end of a driveway where the plow has left a windrow, that you're not pushing that back out into the middle of the roadway. The current
Oh, I see.
wording is it's already on the highway, so, we would need to amend the bylaw to be able to deal with that.
But the actual boulevards, like between the road and the property line, could be regional and or our property, correct?
Right.
So, are we telling them that they can't touch any snow that's on that property now?
No, we're just telling them that we don't want, the wording is that's creating a safety hazard, so that's more the pushing it out into the middle of the road that we're concerned with.
A lot of people have their driveways cleaned out by trucks or whatever, and they get in, they put the plow down, and they drag it, and they take it out to the middle of the road and leave it. And it's a real issue, and a number of contractors do that. And so I see why you're doing it. In fact, people that blow their own snow do that.
And they leave it on the road?
Yeah.
Really?
And they run the blade right down, and then what we get is the snow on the edge.
I mean, I see them pulling it out, but then they kind of push it up on the bank or something.
No.
Well, if that's who it's applying to, then absolutely, but,
Yeah, that's what it's applying to, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Or if you were blowing from your driveway onto the road, I get that.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening either. But if it's already on the road, I'm not clear on why you would be on the road anyway, but I think you've kind of explained it to me.
Okay, any further questions? What's council wish to do? Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. We have a motion. Somebody has a motion to stop up, close, and convey part of Center Street. Okay.
Resolution number 2018-01, moved by Councillor Bryan. Whereas the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Uxbridge deems it desirable to declare surplus and convey real property legally described as part of the Center Street shown as PL H50061, south of Kings Highway number 47, Township of Uxbridge, Regional Municipality of Durham. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Uxbridge hereby declares the following. 1. That the property legally described as the part of Center Street shown as PL H50061, south of Kings Highway number 47, is surplus to the needs of the municipality. 2. And that public notice be placed in the local newspaper once a week for 2 consecutive weeks, advising that the lands are being declared surplus and that the township's intention to convey said lands.
Thank you. Are you running for the mayor?
I'm sorry, she gave it to me to read it.
Oh my God, you signed it.
Oh, she gave it to me to sign it, that's why. I'm sorry. She gave me to sign this, so I did. You should have stopped me.
I tried to, but,
If you can do better. Sorry, Your Worship. Way to go, Laura.
thank you for doing that.
I got the tough words out of the way.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay.
signed it, you're all right, Fran.
Other business. We'll be going into camera, but, before we do that, to the press, questions.
It was good.
Yes, Mayor. When is Councillor Bryan being sent for re-education?
Shortly, I hope.
That's what the in-camera's apart.
Mayor, on the issue of scents and deodorants and things like that, if I understand it, Council voted to support the recommendations in that report.
Yep.
And so presumably notices are going to be posted at the arena and the Uxpool and all the other places. What does that...
No, I understood it. Just the town hall and the pool. That's what we voted on.
So just here in the pool?
Yeah.
Okay, and given that those notices will be posted there, what happens to someone who comes in wearing an overabundance of perfume or deodorant?
Well, I think while Carolyn presented it to us was that, if they came to the counter and it was the person the staff person at the counter that was allergic, some other staff person would take over.
Okay, thank you. And two very quick questions. Did I understand someone to say there is no council meeting next Monday?
That's correct.
Is that, could I assume that that's because some members are going to be away at Roma?
Yes, 3 of us,
3 of you?
right.
And very quickly, Mayor, there's been a number of references made today about marijuana. And noticing the City of Oshawa's request for a deferral here. Has the Township of Uxbridge yet developed a policy about the location and what other restrictions there might be should a marijuana store come to Uxbridge eventually?
We do have one at location, that council, not this council, the council before, I believe, yeah, it was, because that was for growing, not for selling.
So there is no policy regarding selling?
No.
Does the township anticipate coming up with one?
For sure.
I'm sorry? We'll meet over a quick buzz. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Press? Oh, yeah? No? Okay. Anybody? Oh, it's all stopping you. Okay, so I need put a motion forward to go into camera. Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Yeah. Roger, if you want to come back at 5 after 2? Yeah, my office.
Here's the sense that we were looking at, we would get rid of.
Do you want to ask, is Andre on his way? Yeah. Okay.
And we'll send an update out on the Friday for those, for council.
I think we should just leave our mics on. But then they keep cutting off, so. The other thing is that the next year, or this year, is going to be horrendous for projects and activity going on. So I have asked staff to come up with a status report of where we are on a lot of projects. So maybe we could do that on the 23rd as well, because we're going to be here. And it's the two of them tie in. So I would suggest that you don't make any commitments for the afternoon whatsoever. And 'cause I think it's really important that we understand where we are, certainly on Victoria, for Victoria, where we are on Mill Street, where we are on the Kennedy property, the shelter, what's happening with, what's the status on Tony Peck's property, all that sort of thing. So we need an update on all that. So we'll do that also on the 23rd. Okay? Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried.